Okay. Okay, thank you.
Call to order, Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Trustee Barbian?
Present.
Trustee Sal?
Here.
Trustee Unger?
Here.
Trustee Feckmeyer?
Here.
Trustee McFall?
Here.
Trustee Olet?
Here.
President Saborowski?
Here, thank you. Looking for approval of minutes, regular board meeting, May 6, 2025.
I'd like to make a motion to our village board to approve the regular board meeting minutes of May 6, 2025. We've all had them issued to us beforehand and have had a chance to review them.
Second the motion?
Any discussion at all on that? No? Roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sal?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Feckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Saborowski?
Aye, thank you. Item 5, new communications, A-25-09, referral to Plan Commission for application from Barrett Low Visionary Development requesting a plan development overlay district on the property located at 5300 South 76th Street, tax parcel 650-9990-031, the former Boston Store parcel.
I'd like to make a move to refer the application from the Barrett Low Visionary Development requesting a planned development overlay district on tax parcel 650-9990-031 to the Planning Commission and the Planning Consultant.
Second the motion?
Any discussion at all?
Glad to see it moving forward.
Yes, totally.
Yep.
Roll call, please, vote on that.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sal?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Feckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Saborowski?
Aye, thank you. Next item, citizens' comments. Persons wishing to address the board are asked to state their name and address for the record. Limit their comments to only one time and limit their comments to 3 minutes or 5 minutes if representing a group of persons. Citizens' comments shall be limited to a period not to exceed 30 minutes. Public comments should be addressed to the village board as a body. Any questions or comments directed to any individual trustee or staff person will be deemed out of order. Please note the village board can only discuss matters listed on the agenda. Now we will open it up.
Name's Jeff Birmingham. I'm president of the Greenville Trail Association, speaking at the organization. I'm going to speak today a little bit about the Greenville Trail Association, what's been going on with our organization. Our mission for the Greenville Trail Association is dedicated to enhance the health and safety, well-being of Greenville community by developing and improving trails and parks through community-driven fundraising events.
Sorry, excuse me, Jeff. I just want to make sure your microphone is on. You seem kind of...
I don't think so.
Yeah, I was going to say, I couldn't hear.
Do I get 30 seconds?
32.
This time or not? Yeah, no, Jim's like, forget it, let me go.
Just once. Just wait till it's a solid green. Sorry about that. Just got to connect.
Yeah.
And you said it was for a group, so it'll be a 5-minute timer. So we'll do it.
Okay.
We're good. Thank you.
Okay. The Greenville Trail Association is dedicated to enhance the health and safety and well-being of Greendale community by developing and improving trails and parks. Through community-driven fundraising events, we've created substantial outdoor space without the use of taxpayers' funding, preserving public sources while promoting active connection living of all. Who are we? The Greendale Trail Association is now an incorporated 501c3 organization committed to improving and expanding outdoor spaces for everyone. Since our funding in 2023, we have built a strong foundation of community support through the dedication of volunteers, general donors, and engaged sponsors. What we accomplished. In our first year, we reached a major milestone. We raised $14,000, fully fund a new bike lane connecting the Oakley Trail to the village center, entirely without the use of taxpayers' money. Since achievements we've made possible through support from local business sponsors, individual donors, participants in a 5K run, 2-minute walk, and an incredible team of volunteers, together we transform a vision into a tangible, lasting improvement for the community. Our goals for 2025. Looking ahead, we aim to promote, increase the use of Greendale trails and parks, improve accessibility and safety on existing trails, enhance the beauty and functionality of outdoor space, and grow our volunteer network to deepen community engagement. Your continued support will help bring these goals to life. I'd like to add, we have our 5K run, 2-mile walk, August 31st at 10 o'clock. If you are interested, all you got to do is do the QR code, and you can actually do the run by that. But if you do not want to do the 5K run and 2-mile walk, you can just come. Come there. We have live music. We have the DJ. We have gold medals, silver, bronze, or gold medals for first, second, and third place by age brackets. And if you do not want to participate, just come to the event. All we ask is a donation to the organization. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Anybody else for citizens' comments?
Yeah, that's a good point. So we'll just note that we do have an item, maybe some of you here today, for the new business, item A, presentation from Milwaukee County regarding the Trimborn farm property. That will not be a public comment section. There will not be public comments during that. So if anybody would like to make any comments made, you could do so right now during the public comments section. So I guess last call for comments.
Yep.
Hi, my name is Vicki Jensen, and I live in the G section just down the street from Trimborn Farm. I understand a little bit about what's happening, that there isn't really enough money to keep it functional. The county doesn't have the money, so they're looking for other options. I think that the neighborhood really enjoys the quiet space that Trimborn Farm offers, and I think bringing in any kind of a commercial development, I just don't think that would be really good for our community. I would be afraid of what happened at the Rock. I would be afraid of loud music that we could hear. I'd be afraid of parking. It's a very quaint area, and I would hope that the village board could somehow, or the county, look for a public-private partnership to help fund the structures. Already they do have some weddings and activities there, but it's pretty low-key, and they don't have a lot of noise. And I don't think anybody has ever minded when they have the campouts for the Civil War or the Art and Crafts festivals or anything else. But opening it up to a lot more things, I think it would degrade the community rather than enhance it. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicki. Could we get your address, please, for the record? Yeah, thank you.
5714 Grandview.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Oh, I see none, so I will close it. I am going to ask the village board if we can move up new business, item 10. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Item A, BOT 2549, presentation from Milwaukee County regarding the Trimborn Farms property.
Good evening. I'll start out. I'm Kathleen Vincent. I'm Milwaukee County Supervisor, 6803 West Grange Avenue. Tonight, I've asked for some of our representatives from the county to come. I also am hopeful to hear from all residents at some point about what they would like to see become of Trimborn Farms for the future. Tonight, we have from the Milwaukee Economic Development, the project manager, Erica Goublé, is here. We have Executive Director and President of the Milwaukee County Historic Society, Ben Barbera. And then we have Celia Benton, and she is the Director of Economic Development. Did I get that right? So I'm just going to say a few words because what I've tried to do is set up a public listening session and a presentation from Milwaukee County. So they'll talk a little bit here tonight. I'm going to make it very clear there have been no decisions made on what the future could entail for Trimborn Farm. Social media sometimes gets going, as you know, in the village. I saw some concerns. Some people were concerned that there was going to be a meeting here and that you guys all have decisions made already. I tried to dispel that. My whole goal as your county supervisor is going to be a voice and an advocate for what this community wants. As Vicki Jensen just said, and she did reach out to me earlier, we want to make sure that our neighborhoods stay, in a quality style. And so the neighbors, especially around the G section and the overlook section over there, I think definitely need to be taken into consideration. But since this property is in the Village of Greendale, I want the Village of Greendale to have the utmost say on what becomes of this. I know the rock was brought up. I don't anticipate anything to that degree, but I think we need to be mindful because as these kinds of decisions get made, the quality of life could be impacted by that. So I'm not going to say too much more tonight. I am having surgery a week from today, so I'll be 9 days out of surgery, but I do plan to be at that June 5th, barring any major pain that night. I think we are even going to try for a virtual option if need be, but I should be in attendance. My legislative assistant will be there. I want the county to kind of explain the situation we're in right now because they can best explain it. Ben, from his role as Milwaukee County Historic Society, will be able to talk about the role that the Milwaukee County Historic Society has played in that property. And then I do want you to know that I have reached out to some individuals in our community who potentially could be individuals that would have financial ability to be of support. And I won't get too much into it, but there is about $1 million in deferred maintenance right now. That's the big hang up for Milwaukee County. So without any further delay, I'm gonna let Erica come up and you want me to stay up here just in case or?
No, you don't have to.
Okay, I'll sit down. If you have any county related questions or thoughts for me, I'll be in the crowd.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
And Erica, our IT director, is working on getting you connected there, so we'll just stare at them and make them uncomfortable.
Ryan. Ryan, Eric. Where's Eric here too? Is it Eric, the director?
Oh, there we go. So for those of you who aren't, Erica Goblet, Project Manager, Department of Administrative Services, Economic Development Division. Do you do my address too? No? Okay. So if you're not familiar with Trimborn Farm, Ben is going to talk a little bit about the location and a little bit about the history. And I can move the PowerPoint for you.
You can push it forward a little if you want.
There we go. Ben Barbera, Executive Director, Milwaukee County Historical Society. We have been helping the county manage this site since 2004. I've been with the Historical Society since 2014, so a fair amount of experience with the property. You can see in the map here the layout of the main structures. The three kind of most important structures are the Cream City brick farmhouse, the stone barn, which is one of the largest and last remaining stone barns in Wisconsin, and the bunkhouse granary. These are the three buildings that constitute the 1980 historic designation of the property. The other buildings, there's a threshing barn, machine shed, a pump house, chicken coop, smokehouse, and then the 75-foot lime kiln, are all on there as well. All of these require some amount of maintenance and care and are not necessarily part of that historic designation. And then there's also the Jeremiah Curtin House, which is essentially separate, technically separate from the Trimborn Farm, but has often been integrated in the programming and things that go on there. We, the Historical Society, own the Curtin House, but it would potentially be included in this RFP as well as we go forward. So, brief history. Werner Trimborn and his family emigrated from Prussia to Milwaukee in 1847. In 1851, they bought about 10 acres on the site of Trimborn Farm and set up a quarry and their lime kiln. And eventually they became one of the biggest producers of high-quality lime in Wisconsin. Lime was primarily used in construction as well as other things. At its peak, the farm produced 200 barrels of lime a day with about 40 laborers and grew to about 530 acres. Around 1900, the Trimborn family began selling off the farm, and it became a dairy farm for a number of years. And then the Framing family purchased some of the land, and then Thomas Sachs, who was the mind behind the Oriental Theater, bought some of the land too. So it kind of became a gentleman's farm on the outskirts. Eventually, the federal government took it over, and it was used as housing and staging for the development of the Greendale project. And then after that, there were various other owners over the years, including a riding stable until 1979. In 1980, the county park system took over the property, and they started programming it as a historic park. It's the only historic park in the county. At that time, a group called the Park People managed it, and they were restoring, preserving, interpreting the structures. Eventually, in 2004, the Historical Society took over management, and we've been working with the county since then to sort of maintain the buildings, the structures, as well as doing school tours, field trips. In fact, my daughter helped on a field trip today in the rain. Other programs, and as it was alluded to earlier, we have done events out there, or rentals out there as well, like weddings and things like that. We haven't done it the last few years because of some of the capital needs. So that's the very quick history of Trimborn.
Are you more comfortable sitting?
No, I'm fine.
You're fine, okay. So now that brings us to the current day. So Milwaukee County Historical Society has been a great partner for 21 years. And one of the things with the property too is there's historic designation, national, state, and Greendale has historic designation for this property. But the three main buildings are the bunkhouse, the stone barn, and the farmhouse, where the caretaker lives right now. So those you would not be able, unless they fall down, you would not be able to change them on the outside. So they'd always have to maintain that character for the National Historic Designation. So right now, currently, the county puts in about $15,000 a year in upkeep, and then the Milwaukee County Historical Society also puts in about $6,500. As many of you probably know, the county is facing major structural deficits over the next few years. Our infrastructure needs are far outpacing our ability to bond or cash finance those needs. Parks alone is looking at over $500 million in deferred maintenance. And then our safety building, if you've seen that in the news, it's over $480 million right now is the estimate for that building. So as you can imagine, it means that there's just very little money left for something like a historic property because it's not an immediate need and it's not like an immediate service that we need to invest in, which is sad, but it is the reality. So this bunkhouse right now is estimated at over $1 million to repair it. I know that there's other repairs that are needed. I believe the roof on the farmhouse is also in need of repair or replacement probably. As we're dealing with this, the county has to look at ways to become fiscally sustainable in the long term. And so we're looking at ways to reduce our costs. And that is why we're looking to do a request for a proposal. That's the next steps. We're going to have the town hall meeting, as the supervisor said. That'll be Thursday, June 5th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at Highland View Elementary. And then our goal is to release the request for proposal towards the end of June and keep it open for 3 months with the goal of finding a partner that meets the community's needs and also reduces the county's capital responsibility and maintenance responsibilities. I've seen, before coming to economic development, I worked at Milwaukee County Parks. We have seen a lot of public-private partnerships that have worked really well. And one of them is in Greendale, which is the Loomis Barn. That barn, again, it's not historic, but it was falling apart. And we have now a public-private partnership that's looking at, and has already started improving that property. So we're hoping for a situation that meets, that's like that in this case. So looking at what the future of Trimborn Farm could look like, there's already been suggestions, there's things that are already done there. So a wedding venue, a restaurant, a short-term rental of the guest house, and then possibly including the curtain house in that. Health retreat, working studios, vendor stalls, so like seeing artists in those vendor stalls, weekend markets, farm club memberships. We are open to all ideas. I want to put this RFP out widely into a lot of different businesses and organizations to see, what's out there that could possibly do justice to this historic property and keep it viable for, the next 50 years. And we know Greendale values its historic properties. I drove under the arch that said historic downtown Greendale. So I'm hoping by coming out here, talking to you, the village board, and then having a public meeting, we really want to get the word out and see if there's interest in a partnership for this property. And I think, and you can speak to this too, like the zoning is parks zoning. There's only certain activities from Greendale that can happen in this location. I think the Historic Commission for Greendale is that the right name? Would have anything that was being done on the property, they would have control over too. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for oversight from Greendale to make sure that it meets the residents' needs as well, and that the community's happy with it. So we're here for any questions you may have, or we're also here to hear suggestions, because we'd like to, again, put this out, get all the ideas out there, and see if we can find a partner that could work with us.
Trustee Unger.
I'm sure you probably know, and I've seen it up there, that it would probably do pretty well as a wedding venue if there was the infrastructure. I understand there's no restrooms for wedding guests, but barn weddings are so popular right now. I think it would be very lucrative that way. How would parking work, or how does parking work over there?
So we've done weddings there through the Historical Society for a number of years. Again, as I said, we haven't done them recently. There are a couple of restrooms that are available, but it's insufficient for a full wedding crowd. So yes, you have to bring in something from outside. Typically for parking, we just use the field either to the east or to the west.
Okay.
When we run the weddings there, or when we have run the wedding, there's been a lot of limitations because we need to be concerned about size, noise, beverages, things like that. So we place a lot of limitations on what people can do. So to really sort of realize it fully as a wedding venue, some of those things might need to be relaxed a little bit, which is obviously part of the bigger conversation with the community. But certainly there is a lot of interest in the space as a wedding venue. We also have done similar events, bridal showers, baby showers, things like that as well.
And just for everyone's information, so 2007 is when the village issued a special use permit. And so some of the restrictions that were put on it included rentals are available Tuesday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Rental times are firm. Certain capacity issues, no amplified music, entertainment, or DJ equipment will be permitted. So, pretty boring wedding.
Right.
I guess that's, if that's something that the kind of the point of this conversation is if that's something that the board was interested or the neighbors were open to, then those are things that have to be looked at.
Any other questions? Mr. Barbier?
I have two questions, and just, what would you rate the condition of Jeremiah Curtin House on? You didn't mention it. Is that good, bad, in between?
It needs the roof needs to be totally replaced. We're looking at $29,000 there to do it right. It's got a little bit of water damage as a result. There's some mold issues on the inside as well. So it needs pretty significant work. It also doesn't have plumbing. And we were told it would cost $200,000 to run water to the building. So.
Okay, just curious. Secondly, I live in the G section, not far from there, and I always enjoyed tremendously the old Civil War reenactments, and they stopped, and that seemed to bring in a lot of people. I'm just curious why there's only the art fair left now.
It's a long, complicated story, and I'll just give you the simple version that personalities were a factor. The community that does reenactment doesn't necessarily get along well with each other. And so we tried a couple of different things. It became difficult. Also, under former leadership, there were some issues with alienating volunteers in some of the groups that we had worked with. And ultimately, we made the decision it was easier just stop the event altogether.
Okay. Want you to know, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Well, it wasn't a reenactment.
Right now, the events, that you've had over the years, the art show or the reenactment, where does that money go? Does it go back into this property?
A fair amount of it does. So the margins are pretty tight on those events, but we do put some of it back into the property. So we, the Historical Society, have done a number of smaller repairs on the buildings. We've replaced some doors on the farmhouse. We've done patching and other projects there, so that's where that money goes back into. And then also helping support the education programs and things like that we run out there.
So if you had a partner, then that partner really would take over the property and then glean profits, hopefully, that they put back into the property. You'd have some kind of contract like that, similar to what you do with the other property down in Loomis.
That is what we're hoping for. And the Historic Society is also trying to reduce expenses. So one of the things we talked about before even bringing this up was that they are okay with moving out of that property and allowing a private partner to come in. And so I would expect that, it would be some kind of setup where they would, maybe they'd be investing a certain amount into the property and then recouping that money over time. And that's similar to what we did at Loomis. Maybe they would be putting money into Lake Park Bistro with Bartolotta's. All of their sales, they put a certain amount of money aside for repairs to that historic house. So I could see it working a lot of different ways. And again, we're looking for, if there's creative options out there, we'd like to see them all, and see what we can work on. And then, of course, as was mentioned, working with the village board to make sure that, maybe the restrictions are loosened a little bit, to make it a viable business, if it's a business, and then talk about like what is possible in the property. Like, do we want to allow for parking? Restrooms if it's a bigger venue event, it would definitely need restrooms, and maybe that's just having a new building on the property that matches the aesthetics of the property as it is now.
Great.
Any other questions? Yeah, one of the things, so Mike and I have talked about this many times, I've even gone there. It's just hard for a business to try to operate out of there after the rules he kind of mentioned.
Right.
That's something, like if there is RFPs and people do want to do weddings there, right now it just doesn't work.
Right.
So it's something that would have to come back to us, and we'd have to try to work with them if we want to try to save this and make it work, so.
Makes sense.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for coming.
Right.
Really
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And could you say the date and time again of your public meeting?
Yes.
June 5th
6:30 to 8,
at Highland Park,
Highland.
Highland View, I
6
mean,
p.m. to 8:30,
6:30.
yes.
She said 6:30 to 8. 6:30. 6:30.
Oh, 6:30.
6:30 to 8. There we go. Yeah.
Just give a minute to figure out. Just go. They've already talked about it.
And you said, go away.
All right. Standing Committee Report, Trustee Barbian.
Thank you, President Zaborowski. The first item on Finance Committee for tonight is discussion necessary action regarding the purchase of cameras for the Community Learning Center, FC 2519. The Finance Committee is moving for the village board to approve the purchase of surveillance cameras for the Community Learning Center in the amount of $18,048.99.
Second.
To give it a background on it, Learning Center, for those who don't know, that's our library, the Park and Rec, and the Health Department. So it's a combination. And we did put aside a budget for $20,000 in last year's budget, so this does come under. And if you want to give me some more background, I appreciate it.
Yep, so just to highlight, we went through and looked at all the existing camera locations, looked at where some existing blind spots are, and we were conscious of the budget and cameras that already work that may just be in a bad spot. So we were able to add 8 new cameras, replace 3, and relocate 2 existing to eliminate a lot of those blind spots that exist today.
Nice job.
I have a second. I'm opening up for questions for Ryan. Trustee Unger, please.
Just a little bit more background information. So the library board has talked about this in the past, and other reasons, well, some of the reasons for this is there are times in the library where there's only 2 staff people working, and as Ryan mentioned, there's a lot of blind spots. And if those doors by the health department and back are open, it would be helpful to have a camera there. And unfortunately, there's been some vandalism in the CLC, the lower restrooms, furniture. So I think, nowadays we need cameras. So I think this is a good thing, and the library staff is supportive of this.
Other questions or commentary? I have one. Who's monitoring? Where's the monitor of the cameras? Is that being hooked up to the police in there, or is it in the library?
So both. Dispatch has monitors within the dispatch center, and they can view any camera in the village from there. And there's also a program that you can launch off and view the cameras from the CLC itself. So it is flexible. We can put it on any monitor or view it on any machine.
Okay. And what is the time frame to put this in?
They can get things ordered, so within a month.
Any last questions or commentary on this? Trustee Unger?
Will this require any training of the staff?
Yes, so operation of the program today isn't done by a lot of the staff, so anybody new to the system would certainly need training. It's the same system that we have already, so we have staff within the village that's capable of providing that training.
Trustee Alette?
Doesn't it go 24 hours, or is it?
Yes.
Okay, so what would they have to do to it? like the staff?
I think if I understand the question is if there's staff that, maybe limited staff, and they want to see if there's someone in the back hall or in the basement.
Oh, I thought
How to
you
use
set
it.
it up, okay.
Yeah.
I thought-
How to use it.
Yeah, okay, right.
It records, right?
It does.
For, how long does that, is it recording?
So it depends on how much motion there is, because it records on motion. We have a proposal in the next agenda item to expand that to 120 days.
Good question. Good. I see no other questions, so I'll ask for roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Freckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye.
Next item on the Finance Committee is FC 2520. Discuss the necessary action to update the 5-year equipment replacement plan. The Finance Committee also has looked this over, and we move to approve, I hope the village board approves the update to the 5-year equipment replacement plan as presented. Are you presenting that, or?
Sure, yep.
Second.
So each spring now, the department heads prepare updates to our village's capital improvement plans. We have the capital equipment plan, we have the roads and infrastructure plan, which which the board already approved on April 15th. We have a facilities plan, and then we have a park improvement plan. So this is the second one we'll be bringing forward. It is the 5-year equipment plan. So department heads went through it, reviewed equipment needs with their staff, and met with myself, assistant village manager, finance director, went through these pretty closely, and then put together an updated plan to present here with the village board. So you do have the full 5-year plan in your packet. So tonight we will be asking for any questions, comments, anything in the plan. And then if the board is comfortable with it, we would ask to approve it. The first year in the plan is 2026, so there will be another chance to revisit the plan when we get to doing the 2026 budget. So this is kind of a way for us to get a head start and to be able to focus on other parts of the budget while still being able to come back to this during the fall. So just as a quick overview of the projects that are identified for 2026. For Village Hall, we have the next phase of our building plans, digital archiving. So this is splitting it off into 2 years. So there's over $60,000 worth of time and effort needed to digitize all the historic or all the old plan documents that are upstairs, downstairs in the director's office. That is detailed in the approximate number of materials is detailed in the attached detail sheet. Several public works items. So there's a couple things on here that were previously approved as 2025 items that are actually going to be delayed due to availability. And so we moved them to the 2026 year because that's when they'll be received and will be paid for. But that includes the dump body, salter plow for the patrol truck, the water utility van, which was actually approved at the last meeting, and then a curbside recycling truck. This is on tonight's agenda for you to consider authorizing staff to go ahead and order that now so we can get it next year. There's also a Chevy pickup, a pavement marker, and 40-yard open-top containers, 4 of them, to replace the existing compactor. In terms of police equipment, there's the 2 squad cars with setup equipment and graphics, body armor, flock cameras, portable radios. Portable radios is also on this agenda tonight as a separate item to ask for your approval in being able to submit that order so we can take advantage of pricing now, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So breaking it up into the police radios as well as the fire radios. We also have the fire ambulance, which was previously approved in a prior year, and now we will not be receiving it until next year. And then some IT equipment, including our annual workstation and security camera refresh cycles, a camera server, which as Director Jonas mentioned, right now we have a camera server that allows us to keep, I don't know how many weeks, but what's that? Just under a month of recorded time. And for various policies, we need to get that up to about 120 days. And so that's recommended in there to replace that camera server. We have fob system door access expansion, so we've done most of our buildings now with the door access system. This will be expanding it to the host tower into the DPW facilities. And then lastly, the police data center UPS battery is due for replacement. So those are the equipment projects that are outlined for 2026. Again, not necessarily committing to all of these tonight, but putting them to the plan. We are asking you in the separate agenda items to commit to going ahead with ordering those couple items that I did mention. So with that,
Questions for the manager? Trustee Selford.
I don't know if this is a question the manager can answer, but I just thought that some of the supply chain issues had been resolved in the states here since COVID, but apparently that's not the case for these large ticket items.
I don't know if Director DeBask, I mean, these seem to be related to sort of the specialty equipment or vehicles, would you say?
And just to the last part of my question was like, if that's the case, do we need to start thinking differently about our 5-year plan and pushing things sooner if we really need them in a certain year?
What was your question?
Oh, so for Director DeBask on the,
Fire away, Jim.
So in regards to the utility truck, it was just, it was us just trying to figure out how we can navigate that and get everything all done at once. So you have two different entities in a lot of these vehicles. You have a chassis for one that you have to wait to get ordered, and then you have the actual body. In the case of the dump body for the plow truck, we had the plow truck, we were waiting on the dump body. When we order it, we become that place in line. So it just depends on what's in front of us. It's not necessarily not being able to get the materials, it's who's in front of us and how long it's going to take to start our build. So that's kind of the situation we're at, not necessarily the materials itself. It's just that there's a lot of stuff ordered ahead of us.
and that relates to the, I guess your second question relates to the recycling truck that we have later on this agenda. We're asking to give authorization to order it now so we can get it next year. But yeah, to Director's point, there's multiple vendors that you got to coordinate with, and apparently some are still behind schedule.
Got it.
Trustee Elect, you had your hand up?
I'm not clear what the pavement marker is. What is that and what is it for?
It's the road striper. So it puts the lines on the road.
Oh,
It's this little guy right here,
I'm like,
right there.
okay.
That gives you your crosswalks. and all
Yes, I
your
love that
lines,
one.
yep.
Love that.
You okay with that answer?
Yes. Thank
Want
you.
us to demonstrate?
No,
Yeah.
before I went on to Trustee Unger?
I have a couple questions. Can you elaborate a little more on the digitizing of old building plans? I understand wanting to maintain historic records. What makes these so important to digitize, and how often, what are people asking for? Why is it important to digitize them? And it seems like we've been working on this project for like
Right.
3 or 4 years.
We got the permits done, but these are primarily plans that we have in the building, and many of them large size. And the main
Plans of,
building, new buildings,
okay,
projects. So the main issue is retrieval, because if somebody says, and this happens from time to time, where somebody wants to purchase a property and they say, I want to see the building plans, and Paul has to say, here's the key, go upstairs and find it. 'Cause
Okay. I just want to understand what the process is. So
Yeah.
this is helpful.
And Paul can explain it better than I can, but
Okay.
as I understand, they're not organized in any certain way. I mean, they may
Okay.
kind of be, but someone has to go in there and work on trying to find it and retrieve it. And so these would put everything at our fingertips and be able to search by address. And this could also be made available publicly through the public portal that we have now. But it's the type of thing, you do it once and then, it saves money over the many years to come type of thing. So it's to protect the materials, because obviously if it, got damaged, but also to retrieve them is kind of the main reason.
Okay. So I'm looking at, I don't think I see a page number on here, but I'm looking at the building plan item in your table here. And there is a project fee of $600 for a courier for the second floor storage room. And then on the next page, that fee goes down to $125. Do you know why the fee is $600 for one and $125 for the other? It seems like there's more boxes for the second project than the first project, so any idea?
I am not sure, but I can check on that.
Yeah, if you could look at that, maybe.
I don't know if it has to do with being on the second floor or different types of
Because
materials.
some of it's in the basement, yeah, so I just maybe ask them why. And then I have a question on the roll-off truck situation, the compactor. So if we're gonna go to roll-offs instead of the compactor, will there be more volume and more of a need to remove those big dumpsters more frequently if you're not compacting?
Yes. So,
Okay, so is that a good idea or no?
so I think how we look at it is, obviously the compactor's been there for a very long time. To replace the compactor, it was around $183,000. I'll kind of shoot towards Trustee McFall. Back in, when he was running the compactor, we took everything. The recycling isn't what it is today. So a lot of it's separated. So we separate all the e-waste, we separate all the refrigerator items, we separate all the metal. So we're not seeing the amount of trash we normally do. So to be efficient and use the equipment that we've already have, the thought is to go to 4 more open-top containers, use that like most municipalities around us do, not having compactors, and using the equipment we have to haul it out. Instead of spending $183,000, we're asking for that $60,000 for the containers and using the equipment we have. And I don't think there's going to be much change as far as weight to it. We have like that bulk bin item now, which we use the roll-off truck for. Every few days we've got to run that. I think it'd be similar to this.
Okay.
Other questions, comments? Trustee Feckmeyer?
Digitizing those plans and records, is somebody going to glean through those and get rid of anything that we don't need to digitize? I would think some of that stuff is so old that it's not necessary.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I know Paul's thought a lot about that, so I'll have to ask him what his thoughts are on that. I mean, that's a tough thing. If you come across things that say draft, is it worth keeping?
Yeah.
And that's what he's kind of been thinking about, because if it says draft, it's not the final, but then again, that may be the best that we have, so how do you decide? So I'll ask him about that and share his thoughts.
Trustee Olet?
Do we charge for them when they come to the village hall to get the plans, to recoup some of this money?
Just if there's copies, but it'll never recoup. It's sort of the cost of modernizing things. You have to. It's a one-time charge to modernize it, and then you're going to save your own staff time in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
But it won't. Unfortunately, there's probably no good way to recoup it.
So if somebody requests that, they're going to get a digital copy, and then they can print it or whatever they want to do with it.
Right.
Some of those records are huge.
Yeah, so they'll be able to retrieve it either on their own device. We could email it to them, or they could purchase it. I think do we have a fee for a thumb drive or a flash drive? So I think if someone wants on a flash drive, they can get it on a flash drive. I don't think do we burn CDs anymore? So yeah, they could pay for a flash drive if they need.
Last comment I'll make is a couple of these items I think we need to approve for upcoming meeting tonight. But again, all these items can be revisited at the budget time if things financially change through the year for where we sit as a board. So I think it's important to give the go-ahead at this particular point, because we can continue to approve them, or we can change our minds at the budget time in October or early November. I see no other questions, so I would ask for a roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Affirmative.
Trustee Sel?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Peckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye.
Third item on tonight, discuss the necessary action to approve the purchase of a new curbside recycling truck, FC 2521. Finance Committee will move to approve the purchase to the Village Board of the recycling truck from RNOW Incorporated at the cost of $377,969.50 as presented by Rod Damask.
Second.
Give your presentation.
Thank you. So just like Manager Hawes outlined in the 5-year plan, the department is requesting to replace our current curbside recycling truck. If we order now, we'll be able to get it in spring of 2026. The current truck is a 2013 with over 100,000 miles on it. It's become increasingly unreliable. Maintenance costs have risen significantly. We ended up being over budget in the recycling fund last year due to the downtime of this truck and us having to put another person on the recycling truck. So it's essential to keep our budget intact too. The proposed truck it's a fully automated truck, so the staff member would not have to get out of the vehicle 80% of the time. Most of the time, it would just be able to grab the cart, dump it, move on to the next stop, so it's much more efficient. The A's and B's, we would still have to pick it the same way we do, but this truck would have the ability to do it from inside or outside the truck. So we would basically have a note somewhere in our village newsletter, online. We would ask that the carts actually have to be separated a little bit further than the garbage can, kind of how people put it now, so that arm's able to grab it. So the quotes received were from Arno for $377,969.50, SWS equipment for $385,499, and Kilberg equipment for $385,180. So staff is recommending the purchase from Arno for a total cost of $377,969.50. And this would be funded with debt proceeds, and we would be paying it back with a quarterly recycling.
Trustee Sel, question.
Do you think you'll be able to get anything for the existing one, given the condition it's in?
Probably not.
No.
It's in pretty rough shape. It's kind of a one-off machine. They don't make this style anymore that we currently have, and we're kind of forced to go to this automated style because it's the only way we can have one employee picking up recycling.
Good question. Other question? Trustee Unger?
So will the new truck require that residents have a standardized recycle bin? Because some residents are not using
So I would say
standardized bins.
98% have the actual recycling cart. Otherwise, they have to have the blue bin. So
The big blue bin.
right,
Yeah.
just the old curbside one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not too many out there. There is a position on the truck where you can actually have a cart stationed. So if we have that, we can dump it in that and move on and then dump it when it gets filled.
So in the past, I've put no-nos in our recycle bin, and your staff have plopped it on top, because it was a cord or a frying pan or whatever.
Yeah.
Things you.
How's that going to be handled now? If someone puts like a tangler or, things that they
Yeah.
shouldn't in the bin?
Yeah, you're completely relying on the public to put out recycled items.
Not put their computers in there.
When it does get to recycling center, it does get filtered out. We get a separate charge for actual garbage, and we get a charge for recycling. So what we're trying to do is keep the garbage out of it, so we don't pay that cost when it goes to the recycling center.
Oh, okay.
So when I get the bill from John's,
Yep.
there's a bill for the processing fee for recycling, and then there's a bill for trash that's pulled out of it.
Oh.
We don't
That
even have
could
like
be a problem.
a mirror camera, like a camera that what? Let's tell.
You can get a
Let's say that
camera
we have a
on,
camera.
you can get a camera on these.
And I think you answered a question. I think I heard you say that in the originals, this wouldn't work in certain neighborhoods?
Yeah, so it'll work on one side where the employee won't have to get out, but just like we pick now,
Okay,
they back down, they get out, they do both sides at once, they get in and move forward. The truck we have now is very similar to this. It has tippers on both sides, but you operate one side. So, little different, but not much.
Sounds like a nice vehicle.
Yeah, it'll be nice.
Other comments, questions? Good presentation, and this thing will arrive early 2026 is your target?
Spring of 2026.
Spring, okay. I would ask for a roll call then, since I see no more comments.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye?
Trustee Stout?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Alette?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next item on Finance Committee tonight is discuss the necessary action to authorize staff to order police and fire department radios to be received and paid for in 2026 FC 2522. We had touched at those a little earlier on the 5-year plan. The Finance Committee is asking the Village Board to authorize the staff to order the police and fire department radios to be received and paid for in the 2026 budget. Can I have a second on that?
Second.
Can I have a second presentation, please?
Sure, just a quick explanation. I know we've gone over the different radios in the past as far as the difference between the police radios, the fire radios, and then the 2 radios that we have to have for the health department. At that time, they did not have the radios available for the upgrade for the fire department. They do now. Both myself and my captain of fire operations, Chief Rose now, and Lieutenant Musial, have met with Motorola numerous times this past year. We have a proposal together for the radios. The police department would get 40 radios, the N70s. Fire department would get 28 radios of the Apex Next, and then we have 2 radios that are for the health department. The breakdown is for the police department, $294,215.33, which comes out to about $7,355 per radio. The fire department is $225,072.29, which comes out to about $7,900 per radio. They're the more expensive ones by $400 because they're instinctively safe, meaning that they have to pass certain temperatures up to 1,200 degrees, and they also have to be waterproof. Then the 2 basic ones for the health department, the N50s, they come out to $8,900, which is about $4,400 a piece. The proposal is $528,000. It comes with all the radios, the collar mics that we need, extra batteries for each radio, all the chargers, and to get this pricing that they have, we need to order before June 29th. We would take possession of the radios in December, and then have to pay for them by January. And if you would like to add anything, Chief, or is that covered?
Questions? Trustee Unger, your hand is up first.
2 questions. What are the optional items, and are you purchasing that for $15,000? Speaker, microphone, high impact, green with knob. Is that part of this?
Yeah, that includes all the radios. The green is the camouflage, the coloring, that if we're in a dark room, that we could see our radios. If they were just black, that we would lose them or couldn't see them. So we have our collar mics, and if we're in a smoke field, and if it would come off of us or out of our pockets, that we would need to be able to see that, so it glows green.
Okay.
That's a very important safety feature.
Right.
Interesting.
I have a question. On these radios, what is the life expectancy of them?
I believe they were about 10 years old, they said right now, current ones.
Yeah, I think they're around that, 10, 12 years old.
Do they have a history, the old ones, I don't know about the new ones, of them breaking? I mean, these are very reliable units. They don't malfunction at all or have repairs, or just asking?
In my 6 years here so far, we've had to repair 2 radios.
Okay, so they're
But
pretty
I
reliable.
mean, I can't tell you what will happen tomorrow. It's
No,
possible.
I know, I just don't want to get something.
If you're putting us to the challenge, I'm sure we can.
They're allowed one per year.
And just for an example, like they say 28 radios for the fire department, people ask, well, you only have 21 people. Well, for example, my radio, I would get 2, because when you're in the command out of a scene, you need a radio to talk to people that are actually doing the work, and you also need a radio to talk to dispatchers. These are radios that will also be in our rigs as well, not just for the people. And also the radios for the dispatchers, just in case we lose communication through phone, we have to have a radio there for emergencies.
Yeah, no, I understand, I just wanted to know we're getting quality items that don't break a lot.
Correct.
So, okay. Other questions or anything? Trustee Unger?
I'm sorry, I just have one more comment. Since this is like an 80 or so line item quote, I would hope that someone is like reviewing this, because this is a $500,000 purchase.
Absolutely.
And I don't understand, what this all means, 10A and all these. So hopefully, I would hope that someone is going down here line by line to make sure that this is.
We did that at our last
did that?
meeting.
We
Okay.
actually went through it, the chief and I and some of our staff, and actually
Okay.
took items out that we did
Great.
not need, or items that they put in that they would offer us that we did not want.
Okay,
to lower the
great.
price
It makes me feel a little better.
Because you'll see some of them, there's 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year, 6 year, 7 year subscription. But we're only doing one of those, not
Okay.
all 7 of them.
Okay,
So that would be all taken up.
great, thank you.
Good question. I see no other questions, so I would ask for roll call on this item, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Stout?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye.
Motion
Thank you.
passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for presentation. Next item is discussion necessary action to award the bid for the 2025 street lighting project. Finance Committee is moving for the village board to award the bid to Foremost Electric LLC in the amount of $749,794 for the 25 street lighting project.
Second.
Good evening.
Background, thank you.
So last Friday, May 9th, we opened bids for the 2025 street lighting project. We did receive 3 bidders. This street lighting project mainly consists of replacing 68 existing street lighting units throughout the village of Greendale on various village streets, mainly on Westway, Edge Hill Road, and Parkview Road, and then 68th Street as well as Greenway, and then as finally the southwest quadrant of Eastway as well. So this project would entail removing the existing high-pressure sodium street lighting units, boring new conduit, new wire, and then replacing them with LED street lighting units. This project is actually going to be federally funded under the carbon reduction program that is ran through the Federal Highway Administration, and it's administered by the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. So this project is, we successfully attained grant funding for it, so it'd be an 80-20 split, where the feds would be paying 80% of construction costs and the village would be paying 20% of construction costs. We started this project back in fall of 2023, and through the design coordination, we received permission to award, and then we also received authorization to award, or permission to advertise, authorization to award on Friday, May 12th. So this project would essentially start later this summer and would go into probably all the way to the fall of 2026, and that is mainly due to the fact of, as it was brought up earlier in the meeting, there is large lead times on certain electrical equipment, specifically street lighting control centers. For the 2 streets, Greenway and 68th Street, we are proposing a new street lighting control center to basically take that from 120, 240 volt AC circuit to now a 240, 480 volt. So kind of modernizing that circuit as well. So as Manager Hawes kind of outlined the fiscal implications, so with grant funding, grant would cover $615,000, a little over for the construction costs, and then the village cost for this project would be roughly $228,000. You guys have any questions?
Trustee Unger, you're first.
So in the future, could you put on your radar the intersection of 51st and Grange? I've had a number of residents complain about how dark that intersection is, and there's only 2 street lights there. It's a 4-way stop. And if you're traveling east on Grange and you come to the stop sign there, you have to drive forward before you make your right turn to make that turn, and cars are always going over the curb there. It's either just the way that is built or it's the lighting there. And in the, I was told that the lights there could not be replaced until the road is repaired. But we're not repairing all these roads, we're doing just the lights. So if something could be done, I don't know if you can make lights brighter, but it is really bad there.
Sure, that is something I can look into. I wasn't aware of that issue.
Like
but
I
yeah.
can go to Menards and get a brighter light bulb.
Sure. Yeah, there could be a whole myriad of issues that are causing that problem. Yeah, I can definitely look into that.
But Trustee Olet, wouldn't you agree, when you make a right turn there, people are going over?
Yes.
They just can't see it.
Right, that's just a horrible intersection anyway.
Yep.
People are going through lights. It's bad. Yeah, there should be a signal.
Advocating for east of Loomis again.
Yes, there we go. Good job.
Sure. 51st and Grange.
Yes.
Got it.
After you look into it, can you get back to the village board on the results, what you find?
Sure, yeah, I guess I would have to take some time. I just have.
I'm not saying you
No
have to do it right away.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah, I have no
You
idea
go
what the
look right
issue is.
now?
Yeah, sure, I'll go take a look right now,
I'm
yeah.
saying sometime let
We'll
us.
be here for a
I
while.
will-
Drive it at night.
Yeah, I will, put it on our radar and we'll look into that and we can get back to you guys on that.
All right,
at some
thank
point.
you.
And the funding for this, can you just kind of outline how we're going
Right,
to pay
that's
for
what I
this?
was gonna ask.
Sure, yeah, as village engineer mentioned, so we did receive grant funding. Kudos to Director Damask. This is the second round of grant funding we've received for the street lighting project. So the 2025 budget included a total estimated cost of $965,000. We had estimated about $772,000 of that was going to be grant funded. The rest would be from debt proceeds. Because of the scheduling that the engineer mentioned, they'll probably be split 50-50 this year and next year, so we'll have about maybe half the budget impact this year, and we'll have to then budget for the rest of it next year. So the village's portion will be funded by debt proceeds as part of our infrastructure financing plan. But again, as you mentioned, the federal component is for the construction costs. So when you're looking at it being 80-20, it's not 80-20 on the overall cost, it's 80-20 on construction. So we do bear most of the cost on the engineering component of it, if I explain that part correctly.
Correct, yep.
Yeah, I just wanted that on record, so thank you so much. I thank you for your presentation. Thank you so much. Unless there's any other last questions? If not, I would ask for a roll call on this item.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sal?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item on Finance Committee is discuss the necessary action for a temporary Class B license application from the Greendale Historical Society for the 50th anniversary celebration event on June 11th, 2025, FC 2524. The Finance Committee has looked this over and would ask the village board to approve the temporary Class B fermented malt beverage and wine license from the Greendale Historical Society for the 50th anniversary celebration on June 11th, 2025. A second, please.
Second the motion.
Discussion on this item? I think it's pretty
Similar.
standard going forward. Most of our events have this, and certainly this is a major event and a
Can I
big
just
one.
say, can it be
Yes.
contingent on the approval of the event? Because the event is later on in the agenda.
Absolutely, good point. I would change my motion to have it approved, this one, on the approval of the event. later.
Concur. Mhm.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Second, okay, thank you.
I have a unrelated question. I'm just wondering, why do we do the licenses on the financing committee?
I have no idea.
All right.
We have the same question.
I was just like, wait.
Sarah just asked that last week, but I think we always have.
We always have.
Yeah.
All right. Seems like
I
it'd be a
see
consistency.
Yeah.
See no other questions? Roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
That concludes the Finance Committee for tonight, President Zabrowski.
All right, thank you so much, appreciate it. Public Works Committee, Trustee McFall.
Yes, I have discussion and necessary action regarding design of Southway and Ramsey Street Rehabilitation Project under PW 25-01.
And so we'll invite the village engineer back up. So if you remember, April 15th, the village board approved the update to the 10-year road and infrastructure plan, but we had some questions about the project plan for next year, which is the Southway and Ramsey Street Rehabilitation Plan. We had some questions regarding the sidewalk, so we talked about extending the sidewalk on the north side of Southway to connect from in front of Greendale Community Church all the way to the intersection as a new sidewalk area. So we wanted an updated cost estimate to fully connect that, as well as a review of the safety around the Sendix gas station driveway. And then we had a couple other items since then that we wanted to bring to your attention as potential options for this project, including the utility extensions that could be constructed to connect the vacant parcel the village owns at 6190 Loomis Road, as well as the topic of bicycle lane pavement markings, which has recently come up as a recommendation of a county-wide project looking at additional bicycle accommodation connections that could be added. And so offering this as an option for this project, since we will be working in some of this area. So I guess I'll turn it over to village engineer if you want to give us your review of the sidewalk stuff.
Yeah, so thanks for the background, Manager Hawes. So I did, as Manager Hawes mentioned, I did update that cost estimate, so we're talking extending the existing sidewalk all the way from Sendix to the community church, kind of where the sidewalk is from the Veterans Memorial. So kind of to go over that cost, that, to be clear, that cost would be around $70,000 if we incorporated that work as a part of the 2026 road program. If we didn't and we decided to do it at a later date or a separate time as an alternate or separate project, it would increase the cost approximately $11,000, and that's mainly due just to an economy of scale. So contractors already there doing similar work, the same magnitude, that's where that cost savings is realized. As the board brought up in the April 15th board meeting, we did have some safety concerns there. So I did take a look at what we could do there for the sidewalk for safety concerns. And unfortunately, I don't have a great solution for safety concerns. And the main driver of that is, after researching into federal codes, specifically the manual on uniform traffic control devices, that entrance to Sendix is considered a driveway and not an intersection. Really, when you do pedestrian safety features in the form of pavement markings, signage, or something to make vehicular traffic aware of a crossing, that only applies to intersections. I found an absence of requirements, and the only requirement I could find was advisement not to place signage at basically this scenario of a crossing. You could say it's a crossing, but at the end of the day, it's a driveway. So to kind of further promote safety here as a part of the 26 project, we would essentially just mirror what the entrance is at the Walgreens on the other side of the street. So it would be a concrete apron. We would extend the sidewalk through the apron and delineate them, so it kind of is very clear to vehicular traffic on pedestrians that is a sidewalk. We could put a stop bar on basically the egress out of Sendix, because at the end of the day, there's really a lack of requirements, mainly due to just state law being any pedestrian in crosswalk, sidewalk, a driveway they need to yield to that pedestrian. And I just fear that if we did try to go against code, or we set a precedent and we put some sort of signs or made this different just for the circumstance, you would set a strange precedent, because as we all know, the village of Greendale, the majority of the streets are urban streets, and we have this situation basically by definition in hundreds of other places within the street. So if you did it here, technically if it was requested, you'd have to put pedestrian signage crosswalk at any driveway in a residential street that has sidewalk going through it. So it's kind of a weird gray area. So I just think the best pursuit is to just kind of revamp it with the 26 program and just basically align with the village standards that we have now. So And then, do you guys, before I continue, do we have any questions on that or any further clarification? Yeah.
So if I'm understanding correctly, the sidewalk that is right before the driveway, do you realize that sidewalk goes right into the gas station?
Yeah.
And that will stay that way?
Correct.
So people will, a bicycle will come down Ramsey, they're gonna go on there, they're gonna go right into to Sendik's parking lot, get hit. I mean, it's insane. I'm totally against this. I mean, it is so dangerous. I've been watching it, like, I went 3 times on different occasions, and people don't stop right at Sendik's when they're coming out of Sendik's at all. They just go right. I mean, it would be a nightmare.
I guess I want to understand your comment.
So the sidewalk
Yep.
goes right into, do you see that sidewalk right there?
Right.
It goes
So-
right into the gas station.
Yeah,
It goes
so
right
that-
into and so the kids would go there, go into the parking lot,
Mm-hmm.
and then go straight into the parking lot where cars are coming, and then go to that sidewalk. I mean, that is so dangerous.
What sidewalk are you referring to? The sidewalk by the building then? They would cross
The
the
one
parking
right
lot?
there, yeah, where it goes right into the gas station, do you see that?
Yep, I do. I'm just referring, this solution is extending that sidewalk where it turns 90 degrees to the north. We would just continue it, so that would become a T, and we would continue that sidewalk to the west. It would go through the driveway and then continue all the way to the community church. I thought that, my understanding, the safety concern was pedestrians crossing through the driveway, not necessarily the parking lot of Sendik's.
Well, it's both.
Well, I think they're not zigzagging, they're just gonna go straight.
Yeah, in this proposal, we
So
would,
that sidewalk will go straight?
Right.
I didn't
Correct.
see the
Yes,
thing on-
and then continue on to the community church.
I mean, I
yes.
still think it's really dangerous, you know. Well, because people they're gonna be coming out of Sendik's parking lot, and the bike's gonna be coming, they're not gonna see them, and they're gonna hit them. Like, right now, it's a controlled intersection, they cross right on Loomis.
They don't cross there.
Oh, they do, I see it all the time, with the lights. I don't know, I just think it's really dangerous to have that sidewalk through there. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were
No,
doing.
yeah.
So I agree with Donna. And I said this at the last meeting when we talked about this. This looks like a more dangerous situation than them crossing where it is now, and that's why this was brought up in the first place. I live just a couple blocks from there. I go to Sendik's all the time. I get all my gas there. It's a crazy corner.
It is.
It's a very short distance from that driveway to Loomis. People are coming off of Loomis, and all of a sudden they want to turn into Sendik's,
Right.
because that's the only way if they're going north, and it gets
very
congested there
chaotic.
quite a bit. And it's hard to turn into there from either side, actually, because they kind of have that humped part in the middle. It's real awkward. But it's such a short driveway there, I don't think it's safe.
Yeah.
I just don't see the necessity in it.
I don't either.
I guess,
Why is the hump in the middle?
that I cannot answer. That was just how that was built or approved whenever that Sendik's was put in. It is unorthodox. In the 26 project, we would get rid of that median.
I'm guessing because that's not a very wide driveway. And people, when they come out of any driveway, I see it all the time in other driveways without that hump, they're right in the middle. And now someone's coming in and they can't turn in, and it causes even more congestion. I see that over at 84th and Layton, people coming in and out of those areas. Well, that's a horrible parking lot there anyway, but
You're in charge of this.
I'm listening.
Yeah, you're supposed to be calling.
Well, I beg to differ. I think adding that little section there and continuing that all the way to the community church, I think would be a great idea. I mean, I personally think if you look across, you're talking about, we're all talking about Sendik's, but look right across the street, it's the same situation.
And it's very
Exactly the same
dangerous,
situation.
yes. And
no, it's not. It's a much
There's already
deeper-
been an accident
it's-
there.
It's much deeper. It's not that risky there because you don't have that traffic coming off of Loomis and trying to turn in there like that.
It's horrible.
Agreed, but there again, I think sidewalk, I think continuing that sidewalk and getting the people from walking out of Sendik's alongside that road to Clover Lane would be a great idea. So that's just my
I don't
And you
see that.
mentioned, it came up at the last meeting that even without a sidewalk, people are walking on that side of the road. In fact, when there's snow, they're walking in the road, which is the biggest issue. So,
I've never seen that once, ever. Never seen someone on that road.
so this is safe, this should be safer than what we have now
Sunday
by having a
morning.
sidewalk there.
Going to get Hammond Roads at Peters. There he is.
Oh, yeah.
It should, like, theoretically be safer to have the sidewalk than to not. And maybe to your point, by having a sidewalk, are we welcoming more people just to walk
Right.
on that side of the road? And, I mean,
That's
but
my
there's,
worry.
there's so many other busy driveways, you know, is it kind of counterintuitive to say, well, we're just not gonna put a sidewalk there because it's too busy? It just seems like we have a responsibility to put a sidewalk.
And where are they gonna cross? At the crosswalk? Probably not. They're probably gonna cross right somewhere in the middle there. So you're creating that hazard too.
It's a hill too, you know, and they're not gonna stop, and the car's not gonna stop. I don't know, I just really see an accident coming.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
So I've walked this index with the kids, and usually what we'll do is walk up to Walgreens parking lot, and then we kind of just shoot across there. We don't go up to the stop sign, or the stoplight. So I think if we did have the sidewalk going all the way across, I would then use the crosswalk sign by the church, cross there safely, and then continue up on the other side of the street. So I would feel like that'd be safer than trying to cross through that road.
No, I don't.
Ron?
Could I ask a police chief question? Sorry, but do you know offhand, tough question, if we had a lot of accidents at all on that particular corner coming out that you know of?
I would have to, I mean, we have had some, I believe. I wouldn't say a lot. I could get the exact numbers and send it to the board tomorrow if they would like. I mean, I've seen people cross at the intersection. I've seen people cross before the intersection. I kind of agree with Jason's saying. If the sidewalk is on the other side, people that are coming from the school, because I see a lot of kids after school walking that way, and then they'll just cross over. They don't go to the corner, but maybe they would cross over at the church and then stay on that side of the street. I don't think it's going to make it worse. It really is no different than Walgreens.
Okay, thank you.
But if you would like an accident count, I can get that.
I think it'd be interesting to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll look into it. I'll send it to you guys.
I think that no matter what we do and that, because I live at that Sendex and that's where I get my gas too, but I always have to be real careful going in there because it is just what you guys are saying. It's already a mess coming out of there and it is dangerous right now.
Right.
I do think with a sidewalk coming up would be safer for a unsafe thing already.
But it
I
will
don't know if there's-
encourage, you know,
I
people.
don't know if there's better markings for the cars coming out. Like when I come out of Sendex, I always stop a little before because I am always concerned on somebody flying down there.
Right.
What you're saying, I do see it. Maybe we could put a, I don't know.
Would that be what about on the Sendic side, yield to pedestrians type of thing?
That's kind of what I was getting at. We're getting into, it's just unfortunate because we're getting into a gray area when it comes to kind of pedestrian signage and safety promotion from, you know, a design standpoint. I can look into, we can potentially set up signage or do a situation. I'd have to dig into it. This is a very unique circumstance, and this is just that perfect storm where, from what I'm hearing, the main concern is if you have vehicular traffic coming off of Loomis and they want to take a right immediately into Sendex right there, that's where the main problem is. And that goes back to when you have approaches and driveways this close to a main arterial highway intersection, we're still within that functional area. So you have to make a quick decision. And yes, if you have a biker coming down the hill and we extend the sidewalk, yes, but everything I researched and going back and standards and colleagues I've talked to, at the end of the day, the onus is on the driver to yield to any pedestrian, whether walking or bike, that is in a crosswalk, and that's kind of the default. So if we decided to do something here, we'd be kind of charting new water, and that's where I kind of am hesitant to do it unless I can definitely look into it further and maybe we can do it, but the only thing that immediately comes to mind is you would put in, because right now it's almost 4 lanes there, so as you come off, that exterior northern lane could be a right turn only into Sendex, but there's a few problems that come to mind. You're basically generating kind of a different traffic pattern there. Also, you could potentially have a queue that backs up into 36.
Yeah.
So any approach we take, it's just an unfortunate situation, and unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for you quickly. I'd have to look into this further. Yeah, it's tough.
I feel like it's not that unique of a situation, because don't we have something very similar on 76 and Grange? We've got Speedway right there, which is a much busier gas station. There's a sidewalk right there. There are two, one is 40 miles an hour, one's 35. 40 and 35. So, and there's sidewalks there. So, and there's a lot of bikers over there, more so even than are here. So to me, I think we're arguing about something that it's not ideal, but we're not gonna make it much better or much worse. Is it worth $70-some thousand to extend the sidewalk? Is it gonna?
I don't think so.
Is it gonna save somebody? And if so, yes, let's spend the money. If not, maybe we move on.
Trustee Sal, I appreciate your comments. It's a good way to put it, and I appreciate bringing that in. That's where I'm getting at. It's just a situation, I don't really know, without doing like a major reconstruct or redoing the geometry of the intersection and really opening a can of worms, there isn't much you can do here that's gonna change the situation, just based on how the site's laid out.
Yeah, and I guess at Speedway, we don't have any signs anywhere saying yield to pedestrians.
Because it's not typically implied. It's not done because it's a driveway. That's strictly for intersections or pedestrian crossings in a roadway, not through a driveway.
Tonight, though, we're talking about, do we have you design this so that it would be an alternative in the budget next year that we could vote on then, correct?
It would be to include it in the base bid design, because if we do it as an alternate, we're gonna get worse pricing on it as an alternate.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
11,000.
essentially, all this item is talking about is that $70,000 cost would be the cost to construct sidewalks, so it would take off from that ramp that's going into the parking lot to the north. We'd continue the walk to the west, go through the driveway as kind of shown in that exhibit, and extend sidewalk all the way to the church. So as President Saborowski mentioned earlier, if pedestrians wanted to, they could cross earlier at the designated crosswalk, and that would at least alleviate some of the foot traffic from trying to cross right there, because they'd already be on that side of the road.
I just want to say, being on the board for a little bit, definitely some people longer, but a lot of people have asked for a sidewalk there over the years, and I don't know, I feel like we need to listen, and a lot of people have asked to have a sidewalk on that side of the street.
A lot of people ask for sidewalks on other places too.
Right.
Elaine?
92nd.
I agree that people have asked for sidewalks. No one's ever asked me for a sidewalk there. They've asked for sidewalks on 51st Street. Imagine that. I am looking at this from like dollars and cents, and if we're going to add $328,000 to this base bid, I see roads that can be repaired. So I looked at the 10-year road plan. You could replace Morningside or Surrey or Dahlia or Daffodil. You could do the lift truck that's needed by the DPW, and our residents want their roads fixed. So that's the angle I'm coming from. Thank you.
I agree.
What is the useful life of the new pavement on this section? When's the next time we'll do Southway?
Southway, if we, what we're proposing, that should at least be, Southway, it's at least a 20-year life cycle. Probably further, based on what we're proposing to do, because this is more of a, as we're doing with industrial court, this is more of a reconstruct, so we're trying to maximize, especially with kind of this arterial that runs through the village. So yeah, I'd say 25 years that this road should be until it'd be slated again after this project. theoretically.
So, and that's why, so
might get more out
it's
of it.
worth having this careful discussion about it, because we're not gonna talk about this for
Second.
25 years, you know, so.
Well, we could talk about it for 11,000 more, whenever we want.
Yeah. So I would suggest, so there's a couple other items relating to this design. You could take a vote on this particular item, or deal with them separately as we go through them. You could take a vote now, and then go to the next part of this design, then the next part. There's three options that we're talking about.
All right, well, let's do the first vote on it, and that is to move to instruct the village engineer to proceed with designing the 2026 Southway Ramsey Rehabilitation Project, including the sidewalk extension, utility extension, and bicycle accommodations as presented.
So do you want to take a motion either for or against the sidewalk?
Just do separate, just do the sidewalk extension. Period.
Yep, so is there a motion either for or against that?
I'll make a motion for it.
I am against it.
So roll call?
Is there a second?
I need a second.
I mean,
So we're voting on the sidewalk alone.
So there's a motion to design the sidewalk,
Mhm.
which needs a second in order to vote on it. So is there a second to that, or does it fail due to no second?
It fails.
I'll take my motion back.
Okay, so it fails due to lack of second, so
Okay.
that's not moving forward.
Okay.
So we have a second option to then discuss on this one, which is the utility extensions.
So I will go over that briefly. Manager Hawes, a few weeks back, asked me to prepare a cost estimate for some utility extensions for the parcel at 6190 Loomis Road. This is a village-owned parcel that is currently not being used, and we're looking to sell it to some sort of developer or some looking to purchase it. And to kind of make the property more appealing, we would run utilities in the form of sanitary sewer and water main extension to this parcel that eventually, if this parcel is sold and eventually developed, they could tie into this, and this just kind of brings in the appeal of the parcel itself. And then we would do this in conjunction with the 26 program, because again, the contractor will be right in that area, and this would be the time to do it. I prepared a cost estimate, and this roughly would be add an extra $205,000 to the cost of the 26 project. And then one thing to mention, as Manager Hawes has in his report, this could be done, these costs could be recouped via deferred assessments to the future property user. So if this property does get developed, the user does hook into these utilities we've put in, we could recoup the cost of constructing these over a certain period of time.
And Jake, I'm not sure if you know offhand, your predecessor estimated roughly double the cost to do, if it wasn't done this way. If it was done just as a standalone project, somebody, a company a developer would have to pay probably double the cost to do it. So this would be to take advantage of the economy of scale of being there, and then we would be able to do it through a deferred assessment that could be repaid over several years. And so taking advantage of those efficiencies would be the idea.
Matt?
I would say I strongly support this option because of the savings of $200,000 if we would do a one-off. And it basically, anyone that wants to develop this site is going to have a $400,000 cost. If we can do it for $200,000, it makes it more enticing. I didn't mean to be flippant earlier when I mentioned we could talk about the sidewalk any time for an $11,000 increase, because $11,000 is real money. But compared to $200,000, I would not want to kick this down the road for that kind of savings. So I think now is the time to do this, to make that parcel more marketable, and hopefully get something going there at some point in the future for, $205,000 compared to $400,000. Especially hopefully that we'd get recouped for it too in the future.
Yeah, and that's the risk, is if nobody were to develop it, and then it's just, we don't get paid back. I can double check the village attorney, but I think that deferred assessment can stay there for a long period of time. So if we're intent on, which we are intent on selling it, we've been marketing it now it's been over a year or so. I think this is one of the drawbacks of the property, because it's marketed it's for sale for $250,000 plus potentially 400,000 for, just to get the utilities connected there. So if we could, I mean, they'd still have to pay it when they connect, but at least over a deferred assessment on their tax bill. So, yeah, there is a risk that we need to acknowledge, but if we are intent on selling this property and having development there, this is probably will help us do that.
I just want to, what I'm hearing from Matt, you're the expert on this more, and Mike, this will help us get potentially somebody to buy that piece of property that we've been trying to get somebody to buy. You both feel that?
Well, I think it's like what manager was saying, if we're asking 250 and then they've got to put 400,000 in to get the utilities there, or they could pay 250 and pay us 200,000 for us having done it. So saving them 200 grand
Yeah.
right off the bat.
I do think that this helps us get somebody to develop that land, so I have to be for this.
If we were a rich village and we didn't care that maybe somebody might want to buy this at some point, then, let's just throw 200,000 at it. I mean, I think it's ridiculous. We don't have anybody even offering on that property. And 200,000, I mean, just a few months ago, 150,000 for the huge playground that we put in, everybody was saying that was too much, and then we just want to put $200,000 out. Maybe someone's going to buy it. I think that's reckless. I'm not for it.
Colleen?
I get where you're coming from, but if you do sell, we do have people looking at it, and if you do sell a property, it's such a win-win. Number one, the utilities
If we
are
sell.
already there, that cuts down on their build time, and then you're telling them it's 250,000 or 200,000, whatever it is, rather than what they know it's gonna cost them 400, which is right now, that's only gonna go up.
Well, we did have someone that was going to do it. You know, then they backed out, but I mean, they didn't ask for any money for
And
it.
maybe they wouldn't have backed out if the utilities were there already, and
I
they're
don't think
paying
that was
half
the
of what
issue,
they
but-
would have to pay.
Because it was a business decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have tax revenue from the property once it's developed and whatever, it's.
I don't know. I just don't want to be in a position like Menominee Falls where we have to cut the library services. 200,000 is a lot of money.
That's a good point, too.
But doesn't this come from the debt financing?
Well, these would be, these are from the water and sewer fund, so the water and sewer fund would be repaid back. So this doesn't come up here because we're a fully developed community, but if we were a growing community, which if we had industrial parks or different areas where we wanted to be developed and expand, this would be a pretty normal practice to, when we put in the roads and things, to put out the utilities, pay for that, and then get it recouped through developing that land. So this is kind of a very isolated, it seems like a unique thing for us to take this approach, but it's pretty normal if we were a growing community that had building out like a business park or something like that. I think it comes down to, how motivated are you for that land to be sold and developed? If you're very motivated, then I would say this is a good step to take. If it's not that important to you, then maybe it's not worth the investment.
Thank you, Manager Hawes.
Good way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the I'll move to instruct the village engineer to proceed with the design of the 2026 Southway Ramsey rehab project, including the utility extension.
I'll second.
And this, as we go forward, this is just to approve the design. If we still would change our mind on this, we're still out the design, obviously, but we could still stop this somewhere down the road.
That's a good question. So are we going to come back here with the design before we go out to bid? Because you'll definitely have to approve the bids, but should we have a check-in with the design, kind of similar when we came across the issue with the stakeout? I guess would the board like to see a design before we go out to bid?
Design in what way? Are you talking the project as a whole, or?
Yeah.
So yes, I would anticipate we would incorporate this utility extension design as a part of the 26 program. So the goal right now is to have that design pretty close to complete by budgeting season. So yeah, we would have it done by that point.
So if it's, you'll go out to bid in January?
January.
Okay, so in December, you'll say, here's the design, you'll note any important things to note, any, cost estimate stuff. And then at that time, having one more if there's an issue.
Swing at the plate, yeah.
There.
Yeah, I think that would be good for, what Donna's concerns are valid, and.
Well, and we can see if we get more interest on it.
Yeah, we like more interest.
If there's no interest.
Right, and how much does that cost
That's
to have
what I'm
that
talking
drafted?
To
The extra,
design it?
is that anything?
That's a small part of a whole design.
Yeah, roughly, I have budgeted around 25,000 to design that as a part of the 26 program. That's strictly a conservative budgetary number.
Sidewalk.
It's tough to say without starting to dig into it.
So I've said this before on things, if this is not something that we're going to do and possibly in December say, no, we're not doing it, then just vote no. Because to pay 25 grand to have them design it, to think about it, that literally makes no sense to me. That's the wrong way of money. So,
That's a good point.
and the other thing I think we could almost do is start advertising now, if we are on board to do this, to people that might want to buy that, hey, we will do this for you, and this is how you will pay us back for it, because maybe we can get it sold by the end of the year, knowing that this is happening. You know, start advertising it that way, instead of saying, now you have to pay 400 grand to get water and sewer there. So.
It's a good point.
So do we need a separate motion just for this?
Yeah.
Matt made one already.
I thought it was on the whole,
No,
We're doing
engineering, the whole
just on
project.
I thought it was the road and the utility.
Yeah, that's what I thought the motion was.
We're doing the sidewalk?
No,
Sidewalk.
Sidewalk was
No,
separate.
we did the sidewalk,
We did
now we're
the
doing the
sidewalk.
utility, then we're
Yes.
gonna do the bicycle.
Yeah, this is for the utility.
So motion made on the utility only.
Just for the utility.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
Is that what you have now?
Roll call?
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee South?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
No.
Trustee Peckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
No,
President Zabrowski?
Aye.
All right. Next is for the bicycle accommodations as presented, so.
So as I noted, so we're working with Milwaukee County. They have a whole, I forget the name of it. It's part of the umbrella of the Safer Streets for All kind of program. And so they received some grant funding to do this transportation safety plan, action plan countywide. And so they're sitting down with the Director of Public Works, myself, our health director, and going through the community and trying to find what are some areas to improve pedestrian and bicycle safety in the community, and also address, I guess, vehicular safety as well. And so they're putting together an action plan. We pointed them to some various areas where we've had data on accidents, so they're looking closely at a lot of stuff on Loomis, a lot of stuff on 76th Street, but they've also included in a draft that they just showed us internally last week, a draft to, hey, if you add this east to west bicycle connection, you could, this would be a strong connection through your village, and done as accommodations, so similar to like on Grange Avenue. And then as we discussed it a little bit internally, if the, Sarah, if you wouldn't mind just pulling up that map. So, so their recommendation was connecting from 76th, so Parkview to Westway, Southway, out to 51st. So we talked about, well, if you extended it then just up to Northway, you're pretty close to connecting to the newer bike accommodations on Grange Avenue, and then you have kind of a full connection that way. And so we wanted to bring this to your attention now because we're talking about the design of a good part of this area. And so our village engineer put together just an estimate of including this full section, and I guess if you could explain what that includes.
Yeah, so the initial cost estimate of this would be about $53,000 for construction costs to redo these pavement markings. So essentially what this would entail would be, we're already gonna do pavement marking work upon completion of the Southway Ramsey project in 2026. For the portion of Southway, Westway, and Parkview that would not be a part of the 26 project, this work would just entail removing the existing pavement markings and basically delineating new bicycle accommodations or bike lanes on either side of Westway, Parkview, kind of up to Northway. We did this very similar, if you guys have noticed, in 2024, basically from 76th Street to Northway. It would be that same principle for that stretch where They would blast off the existing markings, put in new markings, and there might be some slight alignment shifts of the markings, but that's all that piece would entail. So to kind of all in, to do these pavement markings, it would be roughly 53,000, because we're talking several miles of pavement marking.
What, and is there a design, there's obviously a design cost to this, so a trustee asked me, is there grant money available for this? And that's something we could explore, and so could we explore that without you having put much time into it, and then come back to it if we were able to get some grant funding for this?
For just specifically the pavement markings?
Yeah, just the, yeah.
Yeah, I can look into, we can look into grant funding if there's any available for this. And regarding engineering for this, pavement marking, the design, there's already going to be some design costs for 2026, so it would be very minimal to extend that pavement marking design for the rest of the project, if we wanted to go forward with it.
So do you want to table this until we look for grants?
Go ahead.
Oh, your hand was up first, so.
I'll probably gonna say the same thing.
Okay. I think obviously, looking for a grant, I would like to table this right now and look for grant funding, but also there very possibly, we haven't explored it, there might be community groups that would want to jump in to fund part of this.
Right.
As they funded, some of our groups, which we haven't explored, have funded the other bike path. We should explore that, I think, before we commit taxpayer dollars to this, at least explore the grants and other community groups that might want to help before we go forward with this, in my opinion.
That's what I was gonna say.
I just got a quick question to ask you. I always get nervous about bike lanes on both sides of the roads. Are our roads wide enough to allow that on South Way and West Way going up there?
No, it takes the parking away.
It was stated in here, I believe it would take the on-street parking away. For sure, one side, I would have to see if it would accommodate both sides. I can't answer that. I could get you an answer very quickly on that.
Okay, that's my only worry is because it's not so much in front of the high school because there's no parking. It's when we get up to the top of the hill in the east section, there are homes that actually have a Westway address that allows them to park. I mean, you get what I'm kind of saying, but my worry is always the wideness of the streets, so.
Parking on Westway. It takes all the parking away on Westway.
Yeah,
Both
so-
sides of the street.
But I mean.
I have a question too.
Go ahead.
What about the upkeep? So, I mean, we have the ones already, but who keeps this up? Who redoes them when they fade?
Rod does. He just raised his hand, volunteered.
Okay, volunteer.
With our new paver.
Got the new striper.
Yeah, with the new pavement mark.
The new striper.
Yep.
So there are additional costs down the road.
Yes.
It's not a one-time thing.
But we do
But it
have
does
some-
say in here that it takes parking from both sides of Westway. You wouldn't be able to park on Westway at all.
There is no parking until you get up to the
Just
top.
wonder how much their parking there is on there now, but
I don't know if Rod or if the chief wants to just weigh in on the amount of parking that we see on Westway.
Yeah, to answer Robbie's question, there's roughly about 19 feet from center on both sides. So there's enough meat on both sides to get a bike lane in. Generally, and from my experience, and the chief can chime in too, 4th of July is pretty much the only time we see a great deal of parking on Westway. Otherwise, I rarely see anybody parked over there.
I can't think of any parking on Westway at all. I mean, definitely the parade day, but.
Matt?
I'll just comment that I do support the bike lanes, but at this time, I think we should make a motion to table this particular component of this topic, which is
second
the
that.
bike lanes, until we get more information on potential alternative funding.
right.
Okay.
I'll second it.
And so
I already
just-
seconded it.
Yeah.
I got it.
You seconded it.
So to be clear though, if we have funding available, we are good with this project, right?
No, I think we want to table it to talk about it when we know what the funding
Right.
Yeah.
is.
So we will go look for funding and then we'll come back and then decide if we still want to do it.
Correct.
I mean, it would be good to know if you guys
An option.
like this or don't like this.
I'm not a fan of spending $53,000. I'd rather do a road like
I mean, if we had
Say
grant
if we
funding
had the
for this purpose.
If we had grant funding, yeah.
I guess we don't want to go out and look for grants and write grants if
Oh.
we're not going to do this project anyways.
I'm definitely for it.
Yes.
Especially if we get grant money.
Or wherever money.
Community.
Or if we have a
Community.
group.
I wish they would
Ron.
finish Grange Avenue. That's where I think then really should.
The nice thing about this, and we were racking our brains so much in the last couple of years with primarily Jeff, Northway is not ideal because you'd have to take away parking to add the bike lanes on Northway, and that is regularly used for parking. So this is a better alternative, it appears.
But I think Jeff's goal was to get the people down to the village and not
It's the
around.
scenic route.
Yeah, it's scenic.
Westway.
They get a few more miles in her.
You can still ride a bike to the village.
Yeah, well, you can.
Okay.
On the side.
I think everyone likes
I'd
it.
rather go on the sidewalk, yeah.
So do we need to vote on tabling?
Yeah, we're gonna, yeah. So I move to instruct, or.
Just roll call.
Oh, just roll call? Roll call.
Trustee Burby.
To table it.
To
yeah.
table, yep.
To table it.
Trustee Sal.
Aye.
Trustee Unger.
Aye.
Trustee Peckmeyer.
Aye.
Trustee McFall.
Aye.
Trustee Olet.
Aye.
President Zebrowski.
No meeting.
What was that?
No meeting.
No meeting, he's trying to
you're
rush this.
trying to-
Public health, welfare, and
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you. Thank you.
He doesn't want me to make another motion.
No.
All right. No meeting for Matt. Any other special committee reports?
I'd like to make one on the.
I feel like we didn't vote on the
Library? All right.
design for South Main Ramsey.
I do not have a library board report. I am going to report on the children's garden. I've attended 3 of their meetings, and I just want to highlight a couple things. The committee is very thankful to the DPW for the help during Clean and Green and for their help in facilitating the delivery of new used storage shelves that will be coming from Boston Store that they can repurpose and use for storage of some of their event and activity materials. During Clean and Green, the volunteers planted perennials around the shed, so that should soften the look. And a pollinator garden area was put in memory of Al Emmons during Clean and Green. And the group will be partnering, I believe, with Alverno and maybe MSOE students in this summer. Along with the Park and Rec Summer Adventure Club kids. They bring the kids over and they teach them about gardening and harvesting, and then the kids take the vegetables to the senior club, the senior citizens, and they really enjoy that. So just a little bit of an update. Yes.
Where will the shelving, where are they gonna?
So they have storage under the Welcome Center area. Right, the Welcome Center? Yeah, so underneath. So they have a lot of their materials maybe on the floor and mismatch, and it was mentioned that perhaps there is shelving available at Boston Store. I know we've used it for other reasons in the village, and so they're going to use that instead of spending money to buy shelving.
Great.
Yeah, since you brought up Clean and Green Day, I want to thank everybody for doing that, Rod, particularly DPW, and it wasn't just there, but up through the Canterbury Woods, all the way from Canterbury School down to back of the hose tower. A huge amount of debris was taken out of there, and we had a lot of volunteers from the school. It was a nice joint venture for the school and the village, where everybody likes us to work together, and this was a case where we did, and a lot of stuff was done in back here, so I think it was just a great success, and thank you so much. I dovetail this in because since you brought up the Clean and Green Day, so.
Did you have your?
Yeah, with the health department, again, health department was actively involved in Pet Palooza, setting that up, and they're always active with people coming in, and as the green markets come forward, I don't know how many more meetings we have before this, they're putting on a really nice green market and working with Jackie to develop it. And again, it will be downward, just for those people in the audience here, and the hundreds of people that are viewing us. Thousands, could be. It will be located in front of gazebo and, rather than in front of Broad Street. So people need to know that if they're looking for where it is. Hopefully they can see it, but just in case. Also, the health department is always open for people to come in and help on any of their committees. And just wanted to fill in a little bit with that. Anything from Community Alliance?
No.
Okay. Did you have anything?
Healthy Mind, Healthy Green, we didn't have a meeting, but we were involved in the Clean and Green Day. We had a booth, and Blue Mel's kindly donated about 100 rocks for kids to paint. That was a huge hit. When I left, I had to leave a little early. They were almost running out of rocks. So almost 100 kids painted rocks. So it was a fun event.
Outstanding. There's so many parts of all of our groups that work together, and I think the residents need to realize that all these things are working together. We all work as a team throughout the community. So, I'm done.
All right, thank you. Any other committee
Yep,
reports?
Park and Rec. Just a brief, we didn't have a meeting, but just some brief updates. The J.C. Park playground is scheduled for June, and that's weather permitting. Also, Summer Adventure Club is full. It's full with 300 students that have enrolled, so that's good. Kites over Greendale took place on Saturday, May 10th at the Community Center Park with approximately 1,000 attendees throughout the day. Paper Shredding Day was also held on the 10th in municipal parking lot with over 2,000 pounds of paper shredded from 179 vehicles. So, and then also record-breaking registration, he's got on here too. On May 3rd, it was record revenue for members, a great start to the season. So
Nice.
that's it from Park and Rec.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we did a public celebrations meeting also. 4th of July, the parade's coming along really well. And we're looking for a sponsor right now for the ice cream for $1,000. We still didn't get that yet, right?
Yeah.
And also sponsors for the parade, because the parade went over a little bit. All prices are going up, yeah. But otherwise, Rachel's doing a really good job with Amy.
Awesome, thank you. All right, moving on to old business, board and committee appointments. All right, so two things. One,
Sorry, we'll get to that as a special agenda item later on, because it's the annual appointments. So nothing under old business.
all right. All right, item B, BOT 2550, discussion necessary action on the site plan for Gigaflight Connectivity, Inc., 6180 Industrial Court, number 25-08, PC 25-04.
Sorry, just 1 second, please. Okay, so Gigaflight is a business at 6180 Industrial Court. They came forward with a request for a site plan approval to add a second story to their building. It would not change the footprint of their building, but it would add a second story for needed offices. The Plan Commission on May 7th recommended approval, subject to the applicant obtaining a sign permit prior to removal and relocation of the existing west elevation sign, and final approval by the village engineer and director of inspection services on the site plan. One thing that was discussed briefly was the parking, whether the existing amount of parking is adequate. There are 15 parking spaces. After discussion with the property owner, the Plan Commission was satisfied that that would be sufficient, because they don't have a need for more than 15. They have a lot of remote workers, people that are traveling for the company, but that this would not add to the need for additional parking spaces. So with that, staff's recommendation, the Plan Commission's recommendation is approval, subject to those same conditions put on by the Plan Commission.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the site plan for Gigaflight Connectivity, Inc., subject to the following. The applicant must obtain a sign permit prior to the removal and relocation of the existing west elevation sign, and secondly, the review and approval of the site plan by the village engineer and director of inspection services.
I'll second it.
Just a quick question. So just like on a residential property, like if someone's putting an addition on, there's notices that are given to neighbors if they want to come to like a meeting or say something about it. Is that the same with commercial or no?
Well, in this case, it's a site plan review, so it does not trigger a public hearing or notices, but in certain cases on a residential property, it could. I don't know off the top of my head. I think certainly with an original, we have additional restrictions for originals where it requires a conditional use permit, and then those would have notice requirements to the neighbors. But I don't know if a one-off addition, I can think of several additions that haven't come through in that way, so I would say no, they don't typically, unless they need a conditional use permit, such as for an original.
And that is what it was. I had a deck on an original, and my neighbors had to okay it. That's why I thought, well, I wonder if you have to do it for this, too.
Yeah.
Trustee Barbian?
I just want to comment on this. I'm really excited about this, that industrial is staying and developing more here. We have had, through the years that I've been on the board, many times when businesses become a success in our industrial park, but they need more expansion, they leave and go to Franklin Industrial Park or New Berlin.
Right.
And so this is great that this one is staying in Greendale, just raising their capacity up and staying with our community. I think this is great. You don't see this happening that often.
I agree.
Yeah, and luckily we've had several properties on that industrial court that have put investments into their properties in the last couple of years. So that's been great, and we've sort of returned the favor in reconstructing the road, and it's a little bit of a mess right now, but it'll be a really nice, wider road when we're done.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, in a second.
Okay.
Just need roll call.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Affirmative.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye, thank you. Item C, BOT 2551, discussion and necessary action on the bylaws for the Children's Garden Committee.
On March 4th, staff reported that the Children's Garden Committee would be developing bylaws to help clarify the committee's scope and procedures. This effort was prompted in part by some differing interpretations on what the responsibility should focus on, but I would say in large part, the committee has, good news, evolved in the past couple of years, and so I think there is a need for more of a bylaws just to help, keep everything organized and focused and all the good things that are going on. The village board recently approved the formation of a separate Daffodil Park Planning Committee, which will be responsible for the surrounding park area. And accordingly, the Children's Garden Committee will focus exclusively on the garden space. So this bylaws was developed by the heavy lifting of the committee itself with some input from staff. But just some quick highlights of what it includes. It includes a purpose statement. It includes more details about the roles of both voting and non-voting members. It establishes that the committee will have 11 members who will serve 3-year terms. It establishes that a village board liaison may be appointed to the committee as a voting member. It specifies the meeting notice procedures to comply with open meeting laws. It defines the committee officer roles, and it outlines the financial procedures, so for collecting and depositing money, making sure it's consistent with our village treasurer's office procedures. It has procedures for committee branded merchandise, the official logo. It references the garden policy, and it describes that any amendments to the bylaws would just go through the committee. They would not come through the village board, though we felt it was appropriate for the first time to come through the village board. Then it identifies a social contract section which outlines standards of conduct, behavioral expectations for the committee to help promote a cooperative environment. And there are a few areas, as noted, where we'll have to update our village code just to be consistent with some of the things about the structure, and maybe adding a little bit more in about the role, the purpose of the committee, as that has kind of come to fruition in the past few years a little bit more. And so with that, I would recommend approving the bylaws, subject to amending that section 1.47 of the village code at a future meeting.
We'll move to approve the proposed bylaws as presented, subject to amending section 1.47 of the Greendale Municipal Code at a future meeting to be in alignment with the bylaws.
I'll second that.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zaborowski?
Aye, thank you. All right. Next item, D, BOT 2552, discussion and necessary action regarding ordinance amending section 1.41, Historic Preservation Commission of the Greendale Municipal Code.
So we've worked a lot on creating the standalone or the separate Historic Preservation Commission. We created Section 141 of the code that will establish this commission. One area of discussion that we've had with the Historical Society is a desire to appoint someone that the Historical Society would appoint, and that could be someone that is either a resident or a non-resident. They have several members within their leadership that may have at one time lived in Greendale and no longer, so they would like the ability to be able to appoint a member as they see fit. And so we have an ordinance with a minor change to the language that would establish that 8 of the 9 members would be appointed by the village president, subject to confirmation by the village board, and that the 1 member would be appointed directly by the Historical Society. And so that's what's provided in the ordinance, and staff would recommend its approval.
Do the 8 members appointed by the president have to be residents?
Correct.
Any discussion? Yes.
I'm not completely opposed to that, but I would rather see all members be residents, current residents. That would be my preference.
Trustee Unger?
So when I took a look at these revisions to the ordinance this morning, I was a little surprised that I didn't see language that I was expecting to see. We just approved the bylaws for the Children's Garden Committee, and it discussed voting and non-voting members. So I think that would be a better approach if there are individuals with a certain level of expertise for this committee. Maybe they could be part of the committee as a non-voting member if they are not a resident. And I'm concerned about allowing residents and setting a precedent here. Do we want non-residents on Board of Review or Plan Commission? And I just am concerned about opening a can of worms with all our other committees. So those are my thoughts.
That's a good one.
I kind of agreed with the non-resident thing, but then, so the non-voting member could be.
Yeah, they can still be on the committee, but
bridge.
just not vote.
Then you've got an even number of voting members.
Which I think typically we want an odd number of voting members.
Right, but only if they would appoint a non-resident. So they'd have the decision to appoint a resident that could vote or a non-resident that can't vote.
Okay.
Was that what you're thinking?
Yes.
Like, just to be clear, so the Historical Society member would have voting power, but if they would choose to appoint a non-resident, then that person would not have voting authority.
Yes, that was how I thought this would be addressed.
And I believe that could be done, and I believe you could make a motion to approve it with that change, subject to village attorney's approval. So if there was an issue with that, for some reason legally, I'd bring it back to you, but otherwise, you could approve it in that way.
Any other?
Do we need to add another member then? So we have a,
Yeah, I don't think an odd number is a must as far as voting members, especially when you have a group that big. Yeah. So if it was, difference between 3 and 4 or something. But
Just make it again exactly what we're talking about.
yeah, so the idea was brought forward of the Historical Society being able to appoint a member of their choosing. So the village board would appoint 8, the historical society would appoint the 1 that they choose. Now, they've expressed that they have, there's some of their leadership are residents, maybe, and some are non-residents that maybe used to be residents, and so in order to make sure that they have their most qualified individual to speak, on their behalf or to participate in their behalf, this would give them the flexibility to appoint either a resident or a non-resident into that role. And so what has been suggested is, for consistency with other committees, which is true, if it is a non-resident that's in that role, that it would be a non-voting member. But if it is a resident that's in that role, they would be able to be a voting member.
Okay, and your motion would be then, or Elaine is saying that the person they appoint is a non-voting member if it's from outside.
If their current residence is outside Greendale, yep.
Right.
But all other 8 president appointed
right.
have to be resident.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, I understand.
Okay, so
I think move to approve the ordinance.
okay, I did want to open it up to you guys if you have any comments or discussion on this.
So let me just say this. The reason we suggested this to the manager is that we certainly want to have the best of the Historical Society presented on HPC. It's important that we have somebody with a background in the history of Greendale. We have a member of our society that's been doing that for 20 years, but he lives in Franklin. And we would like to see him be on this group. And that's why we're kind of putting this forward, so that we can start this group out and move this forward with the best of the Historical Society and not have that missed. So that's why I met with Mike and kind of suggested he was well against anybody being from the outside of Greendale in, but he thought this might work with allowing us to get one person in that could be a resident or a non-resident. And again, we're only doing it so that this commission can start out with the best that we're going to offer at the Historical Society. Otherwise, if you look at our executive board, 2 people on our executive board are not people that live in Greendale. And that just really hurts where we're getting started. So what we're doing this for is really just to get this group going and to help this off. And that's the reason we're kind of presenting it, so.
Makes sense.
So if they were set up as where they would have to be a non-voting member, are you still willing to participate in that way, at least, bringing your expertise to the group?
You're being unfair if you're gonna make them a non-voting. So you're saying that we could pick our person, but he can't vote?
If it's a non-resident?
If he's a non-resident. So to me, that's not acceptable. You guys just pick who you want. I mean, the reason I came to you is we put something together here that we thought would work. I understand with commissions what you're talking about, but this is one person on a historical commission that we really feel we need the top person to be on that commission. And again, that's why I approached you on this, is to say, hey, I understand all the things you're talking about, commissions, but this is a separate commission that just says we want to start and have the hot top person on there. If he's not voting, why is he on there? It's really zeroes him out. I mean, it zeroes that out, so.
I guess the issue is, I know of at least one other person that's a non-resident that's asked to be on this commission, and it just, how do we say yes to some and not to others? And the only way to do it, I think, would be to say, if you're a historical society appointee, non-resident, you can be on the board, but you can't vote. Otherwise, how do we draw the line?
So what you're forcing us to do is they get a resident in so that we can vote. And it just puts us back in the same game. It takes the people out so that we were looking. And what? You want to talk about?
Trustee Barbian.
I guess.
Probably next.
I think that we have to make a decision whether on all of our committees, they have to be a resident or non-resident. We have made exceptions. No, we have other committees that have non-residents on it
That can
right
vote?
now.
No. I mean, we've had non-residents as non-voting members on PCC. I mean, maybe at one time we've had maybe a non-resident, but that's on PCC. But a lot of our committees, boards, commissions specify residents. If they don't, it's very unusual to have non-residents on a municipal.
Yeah, I know that point. I'm just saying in the past, we've had people on our 75th committee, our 80th, our parade committee has had people on public celebrations of voting members have been non-residents past. I just think that we still get to appoint them. And this is where I'm going with the filing. We have made exceptions in the past with a skill set for non-residents. We have on many of our committees.
Let me just
And
point out
we have-
as well-
Let me finish.
Hold on.
Let me finish. We right now have some on some of our other committees. And if we still get to appoint them, it's still the board.
But we don't.
But we do.
No, the Historical Society appoints them.
No, but they still can be a voting member. If somebody comes to the planning commission, but they've worked on expressways throughout the state, they've got this tremendous skill set that we don't even have here in Greendale, we may want to have them.
In all due respect, you would not want on plan commission somebody who's not a resident of Greendale.
Well, okay.
I guess I'm just saying, as a community of 15,000 people, it's like we can draw, somebody to it. But I hear what you're saying. In the past, we have, and especially for a parade committee, certain volunteer types. I guess they're all volunteer. But as far as part of the official committees that make decisions or recommend actions to the board, normally residents, and that's why in this case it was you want to consider an exception for a specifically Historical Society appointed person, which we do have other committees where you have appointees by like the school district. Granted, they still have to be residents, I believe, but this is a different way of looking at it if you're willing to do it, and if not, then I think I think the non-voting way is a good alternative. I would say that there would be a tremendous amount of value that your person could bring to the group without taking the vote. That's the final straw, and by that time, most people are probably made up their minds.
Hold on. I wanted Colleen first.
Well, my thing is, what we're doing here is long-term. I get what you're saying today, and I totally get that, but this is long-term.
Yeah.
So down the road, we're setting a precedent here.
But we're just saying the same thing. During the last 25 years that we had the other HP that existed, Ted, who was the person we were going to appoint, was on there. And he wasn't a Greendale resident. He wasn't a Greendale, but he was on there for 20 years. So you were just pointing the same person that was on the previous one that you guys eliminated. So even though they didn't meet, you did have a commission that you eliminated and you had a non-resident in. So we kind of just said, that's what we came to him on and saying, we just want to appoint the same person on that commission to say, this is what we want to do, so, but.
Well, we should.
All right, Trustee Unger.
Mr. Birmingham, I understand what you're saying about that previous historical commission, but that commission never met, and the duties of this new Historic Preservation Commission are very different. And to Trustee Barbian's point, I know perhaps there have been non-residents who've served on the committee to put together parade, but I'm looking at village-sanctioned or village-authorized committees and what we want to do going forward, and whether or not we should set a precedent. It's either all or nothing in my eyes.
That's kind of what I was saying. I think it has to be all or nothing.
Marge has a comment.
Yes.
I think maybe a solution to this would be to have an exception, appointing a person who is not currently a resident of Greendale, but had in the past lived and worked in Greenville for so many years, so that it's not somebody who doesn't know anything about Greenville, but somebody who just happens now not to be living outside of Greenville, but works in Greenville all the time, is totally plugged into the village and had a prior residence here for 40 years or more. I mean, if they can show that they knew something about Greenville, which is very much the case here. That could be an exception.
To me, again, we're
Are you
talking
saying we
about today
get rid
and
of
now, and all of us here, down the road 20 years. Not, we're not here, and we're setting this precedent that there's, whoever's on the historic society at that point can appoint someone. And who will that person be?
If there was somebody running who wasn't currently living in Greenville,
We-
they would have to show a history that they.
Well, we have nothing to say about that. You're the appointees. You're gonna be gone 20 years. You're all gonna be gone, let's face it. That's what we're talking about, setting the precedent down the road.
We're saying bad.
You're appointing them, not us. So,
All right, trustee Unger.
I would like to make a motion to have village staff request of the village attorney or the village staff themselves redraft the HPC code to include a voting and non-voting designation, similar to other committees.
So for one suggestion would be, what about approving it with that change? So it doesn't come back and then we have to review and then we have this conversation all over again and then we, you know what I mean? Would you be comfortable approving the ordinance with this change, subject to village attorney approval?
Yes.
I'd like to hear what the other trustees that haven't weighed in.
I'd like to hear what Sally has to say.
I was just gonna make 2 points, okay. I asked for a past precedence of doing it, that's already been broken, and that was broken by John Hermes when he elected a non-Greenville person to head the 50th committee, and that was Dave Miller. Dave Miller was responsible for spending our taxpayer money, and he wasn't even in Greenville.
yes, he was at the time, Sally. He lived here at the time.
He was well respected, he was loved and everything.
He lived in that
He was a great guy, and he was perfect for that role, but he was not living in Greenville.
He was at the time, Sally.
Another thought, possibly thinking, can you make like the Greenville Historical Society, they have the choice to pick somebody, and they are comfortable with the history, and they know that to pick somebody for the commission, okay, whether they are from Greenville or not. They are going to be picking somebody that would be history. That would be the only group or organization that would be allowed to do that. I agree. I am incredibly proud that I live in Greenville and that, we support and do this. But there are, at times, there are exceptions. And perhaps with the Greenville Historical Society, this may be the one exception. That's all.
And just allow that the Greenville Historical Society selects a person that they know is qualified, that they have a history of being qualified, where it wouldn't be with the other 8 people, those would be appointed, and they would all be residents. And the Historical Society person that's going to be on the HPC could or could not live in Greenville, but they would have had to know a lot about the history of Greenville.
And listen, in our selection, the first selection where.
Hold on, I'm going to stop it.
Yeah.
Trustee Levin.
The problem that I have is there is other people that did apply to this committee that are non-residents that are qualified too. So I would say you can't just have one then, you have to open it up to the other people too. I don't think that's fair.
I agree. I'm going to second the motion.
All right, any other discussion?
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to approve the ordinance subject to the change that the appointee by the Historical Society, if a resident is a voting member, if is a non-resident is a non-voting member. Is that correct?
Correct.
So we all understand.
We understand.
Do we want to add one more name to this list then?
Maybe.
No, because, so this is the next agenda item, so what I would say is where it says Historical Society appointee is just their appointee. You're appointing these other.
So just would be 8 people then?
Yep.
Okay.
So with this ordinance, it'll be 8 people that you're appointing and still 1 member appointed by the Historical Society, which will be a voting member if they are Greendale resident.
Is that fine? That works? Okay. All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
No.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Feckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye. All right. That is everything for that then, right?
Correct, yeah. And I mean, I knew it'd be a tough discussion, but we've been partners with the Historical Society through this process and really wanted to have that discussion and give it, an honest weight and talk it through. And so hopefully everyone can recognize that there's good discussion around it.
One thing, I guess, and I don't think it really is a thing, but just because it has been brought up, I feel like the health board, library board, all the main boards are all Greendale. I guess I just would want to confirm that that is the case.
It is.
It is the case? Okay. All right, well then, we have nothing to worry about.
But they are non-voting.
No, they're voting. There was just one on public celebrations. That's what Ron's talking about.
Well,
Which we didn't know.
Take a look at that.
Yeah, we didn't know.
Okay. All right.
Recently moved, I think.
Got it, okay. Item E, BOT 25-53, consider approving the 2025 annual village board and committee assignments and appointments.
Let's do a quick thing. So in the meeting packet, we provided a listing of all the village committees and commissions.
Yeah.
We highlighted in yellow those that the president is recommending for renewal and there were, I think, 2 new ones that were highlighted in green. They were Katie Crosby recommended to fill an alternate vacancy on the Board of Review. And then there was one other one, right? Okay, a non-voting member on the Children's Garden Committee. So there are 2 new members that were highlighted in green, and then the ones highlighted in yellow were just reappointments. So those were only changes to the existing bodies.
I move to approve the village president's 2025 appointments as presented in the packet.
Are you going to list them, who they are?
So we can do as a separate item, the appointments to the 2 new committees. So this one's for the existing.
Yes.
Previous.
Okay.
That's all I meant to do.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I can do the new ones right now. Because that's in the same thing, right?
Okay, we can do it in the same motion.
Right.
It's all in there. If you want to say it out loud, say it out loud.
Well, no, the new committees are not in there.
That's coming up.
I thought I read that.
Where's that though?
What?
So this is all one item.
Yeah. But what about these? It's in there?
Well, they'll have to follow.
You can do 2 different motions. One is to approve the appointments that are in the packet for the existing committees, and then we'll talk about this and do a motion on that.
Got it, okay.
You can do 2 different motions on the same agenda item.
Okay. All right, so, we have
I
a,
need a second on the
Second.
cell for the
Existing committees.
existing committees.
I'll second the existing committees.
all right, any other discussion on that? Yes, trustee Young.
I have a comment on the existing committee on page 1, right at the top. President Siborowski's term needs to be updated to say 2024 to 2027. And I understand that the rest of them will be updated probably after this vote, but his hasn't been updated.
Thank you for catching that.
So I guess you're not effective.
Guess not.
Can't be here.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Feckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye, thank you. All right, then the next would be, I'll just make them motion to recommend to the board for the Historic Preservation Commission and also the Daffodil Park Planning Committee members, but I'll start with Historic. I have Rod Barbian, Thor Misko, Jim Birmingham, can you say that one?
Imad Jamaluddin.
Okay. Michael Connor, Paul Mosker, Kitty Goget, and then, what?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Thank you. And then Gene Castle. So that would be for the Historic Preservation Commission. And then on Daffodil Park, we would have Robbie McFall, Sally Chadwick, Jackie Kramer, Alex Crutch, Chris Holly, Tammy Dunn, and Betty Furtroff would be on the Daffodil Park Planning Committee.
Second the recommendation.
Okay. Yes, trustee?
I just want to point out that in the HPC listing, 4 of those people, if I'm including trustee Barbian for living here his whole life, have historical expertise. So I think there's a good
Solid
representation for maintaining and understanding Greendale's historic significance.
So not to throw a wrench in anything, but I think we also need to identify which are starting on which number terms, because I think they're all needing to be starting on staggered terms.
Yeah, staggered terms.
So we need to identify who's on which terms. So have fun with
So what years do you need? Like 1, 2, 3?
Just alternate now.
Ron moved away, he doesn't count.
You could just do them in alphabetical order from
More time to do this.
shortest to longest term.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Yep. You guys go with that?
Modify the motion to stagger them in alphabetical order,
Last name or first D.
last name, middle initial.
All right, any other discussion?
You need a confirming for your second.
Confirmed.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Alette?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye, thank you. All right, next item, F, BOT 2554, discussion and necessary action regarding a special event permit request from the Greendale Historical Society for the 50th anniversary event on June 11th, 2025.
All right, the Greendale Historical Society is hosting a private event on June 11th, 2025 to thank their generous donors. The event will take place at 5597 Apple Court from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Food and drinks will be served to celebrate the Historical Society's 50 years of achievements. The special event permit is needed because the applicant is seeking a temporary Class B alcohol license. The village manager, police chief, and myself have reviewed the application with the following condition, that a licensed bartender must be on the premise for the event. On May 13th, 2025, at the PCC meeting, it was denied based on the village materials and private property kind of conflict. So we're asking that the board approve the application with the understanding that village materials may only be used for events on public property. If the board's in agreement with this, staff can add the language to the village fee schedule and special event permit application that clarifies the services and materials are only available for events held on public property within the village. To address any of the parking concerns that were discussed at the PCC meeting, we'll have the no event parking signs placed on the corner of Apple Court to deter people from parking there and kind of, having an issue with residents. So if this is approved the way it's outlined, there are no fiscal implications. They did request, obviously, materials in their application. If it's approved as outlined, there's no fiscal implications from the village.
Make a motion to approve the application for a special event permit submitted by the Greendale Historical Society for a 50th anniversary celebration on June 11th, 2025, with the condition that village supplies are not available for events on private property, and staff is directed to add this clarification to the village fee schedule and special event permit application with one condition, that a licensed bartender must be on the premises.
Second motion?
Any discussion?
I remember a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, when you guys were starting events on there, you had agreed to barricade the road and have somebody there and only allow residents down that road, remember?
Yes.
That was is that what you're gonna do?
That was it, yes.
Okay,
Okay.
because that's a huge problem. People can't get out of that street.
Only when they come in to drop them off and they go, you know how that is. Yeah, that would be really
Well,
helpful.
they shouldn't even be dropping off. Are they parking at the church?
The church is our parking lot. We've already been approved to use the church parking
Oh,
lot.
nice.
And the people are being informed that that's where they park.
That's good.
And if they had to get dropped off, couldn't they go in the service drive and go through the back? Because that's where the party is?
I
Do you think?
believe so.
No, the
service.
Does it
They
connect
aren't
or
on
no?
the service drive. They're on the service drive.
Says event parking.
No event parking.
No event.
So the thought was to have no event parking on the end of Apple Court, so nobody's pulling in and planning on parking on Apple Court.
But could there be a sign at the east end of the church parking lot saying event parking?
You could supply that.
We could do But are you gonna have somebody kind of manning the road? Are you gonna have somebody manning the road?
That was not outlined in
But
the
that's
application.
what's been outlined in the past, that's what I'm saying. Marge, you're gonna have somebody manning the road to make sure nobody goes down on that street?
That's great.
And what's the date of this?
June 11th.
June
If you're looking for volunteers,
We
I'll be a
haven't
bouncer
had-
on the road.
We haven't had a lot of events there, but the ones that have all gone off very successfully, and we've controlled that
Yeah.
people cannot be coming in and out of that.
Yeah, I know since
That's
the first
huge.
time there's not been a problem, so, yeah.
Great, thank you.
We have
We have a motion. Yep.
In a second.
in a second. Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Barbie?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Alette?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
All right, thank you. Any officer reports this evening?
So I was just gonna note the Memorial Day walk is on Monday, well, this coming Monday, Memorial Day, 26th. And just so everyone's aware, and this is a minor change from the event permit, but the time is moved back a little bit. I believe at the request of the American Legion. Normally, I think it was 8:30 that we had met in past years, or at the Parking Street parking lot. So now will be 9:30. So meet at the Parking Street parking lot at 9:30, that's behind Joey Gerard's. And then the walk starts at 9:40. And then the program at the Veterans Memorial is at 10 a.m. So, very nice event, but just want to make sure everyone's aware, it is, I think, it's an hour later now. It starts at 9:30 is when you meet at the Parking Street lot.
Thanks for that, I didn't know that.
Only thing I have is I would like to thank GA and all those involved, police, fire, DPW, for Pepalooza this weekend. I've heard great things about it, so thank you to everybody involved with that. I know a lot of work went into that, so
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great event.
It was great, and thank you to Rod. Rod was such a helper.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. That's all I have. All right, moving on, citizens' comments. Persons wishing to address the board are asked to state their name and address for the record and limit their comments to only one time. Limit their comments to 3 minutes or 5 minutes. If representing a group of persons, citizens' comments shall be limited to a period not to exceed 15 minutes. Public comments should be addressed to the village board as a body. Any questions or comments directed to any individual will be deemed out of order. Please note the village board can only discuss matters listed on the agenda. It is open.
Hi, my name is Sally Chadwick. I live at 5321 Morningside Drive. I just want to make a very special thanks to Jason, to the village board, and to Mike for launching on this new Daffodil Park. It's very exciting, and I'm thrilled to be able to work with all of you. I hope you will work with the committee, whoever the president or whoever is the chairman of it. And I don't know if Robbie is part of it, but he would be a great choice, okay? So, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Robbie is appointed.
Yep, Robbie is on it for you.
Robbie is.
You all right?
Yeah.
Joe Russ, 5599 Basswood Street. You guys, thank you for your change of plans with the Historic Preservation Commission. You saved me some attorney fees. I do think you, as a board, need to look at, on your committees, someone may be a non-resident, but they may also be paying taxes here. Just a thought. But I also see you moving on Southridge a little bit. Meanwhile, Brookville Squares is gone. Mayfair's is going to be turned into a beautiful new store, repurposing it. But your concern about Southridge is interesting, because back in mid-March, I was notified that staff, with possibly 2 police officers, went to various stores in the mall to get their fees for their state weights and licenses for the cash registers. Apparently, this had been overlooked, and a number of these stores were rather concerned with the way this came in, and comments even came back to me, oh, how is the village wasting our money now? After doing a little bit of digging and research, I discovered it was a state mandated thing that the village apparently has dropped the ball on enforcing. You know, you want to help Southridge, but yet for some reason, staff goes in with 2 police officers, either for safety, which I doubt, or intimidation, which seemed to be the thing that came across more. So, if that was true. I find the concern about Southridge to be kind of fake if that's the case. I mean, there's better ways to handle something like that, and especially if staff here has dropped the ball on it. Thank you.
Greg Sylvester, 5902 Broad Street. Where do I start tonight? Let's start with the sidewalk first. I think it's very important. You're worried about kids getting hit walking across there. Well, what about the other driveway into Sendix where they're coming off Loomis Road at 45 miles an hour across a bike and walk path? Nobody ever looks when they're going in. They're just concerned about going down the hill and not hitting a car coming out. I think it's a mistake not to put the sidewalk in there all the way up, at least to the corner on Clover. I myself have walked to that store. I sure as heck am not going to cross the street to the sidewalk all the way up to the corner and cross. In fact, down here, you've got signs that tell people to cross at the crosswalk, and they're crossing everywhere but the crosswalk. Let's see, what was the next item? I know I'm missing one. Another one is the Historical Preservation Commission. I see you have a lot of intellectual titles there. People for, what was it, cultural history or something? What does that have to do with buildings? That's people. Also, you have construction. Well, I would hope somebody in construction knows about restoration construction and what's involved in that. I'm guessing some of the people on that panel wouldn't even know asbestos if it looked them in the eye. I myself, I don't have those educational backgrounds, but I've done a lot of restoration on older materials. I spent 48 years in material testing. For one thing for fact, did you know your building that you bought contained 3% lead on the walls? I'm assuming that was abated along with the asbestos. A lot of people would, I'll go to the store and get the crayon. Yeah, there's some lead in there. But it makes a difference if you're working with 3% lead versus a 0.5% or less, or even 10%. And as far, like I say, as the committee, I would want people who really know Greendale history, whether they're from here or not, who've lived here, than someone who's just, I moved here 2 weeks ago and I think I'm okay to be on your board because I live here. I know I'm missing something else, but that was discussed here tonight, and it's just, and I'm grateful you still have the bump signs up, because it does slow people down in front of the house and on Northway here. They're still waiting for that bump, but thank you.
Any other comments this evening?
Hello, my name is
Ted Manella. I live at 7394 Carter Circle East in Franklin. And just like some of the newscasts end with, well, there's good news tonight. So my executive committee of the Historical Society asked me to share some good news with you. This has been a particularly busy month of May for the Greendale Historical Society. And I'm going to have to refer to my notes because we have such a long list of things that we did. First of all, keep in mind the number 7. We celebrated a 7th grade birthday and a 70th birthday party with the Diamond T fire engine at the community center and at the hose tower. On the 28th of May, we will give free rides to all of the Highland View 2nd graders in the Diamond T. And as far as tours, the number 7 again occurs because it's the 7th annual middle school tour, at which time we escorted 200 8th graders around Greendale, gave them a tour of the Welcome Center, the Village Hall, thanks to Sally, the hose tower, thanks to Jeff, and the old fire and police station jail, thanks to Jason and his crew. So all of these kids spent, which I told them was, I hope they're only their first and last visit to a jail. And then coming up tomorrow, we'll have a group from Green Bay coming into Greendale for a tour of the Welcome Center and for a tour of Apple Court. They directly contacted the Historical Society, and we've cooperated with Anne Marie and all the local businesses to point out the fact that we're going to have 40 people from Green Bay coming in here tomorrow, regardless of the weather. They're going to be here at 8:45, starting out at National Bakery and going to some of the other stores. And it's been our pleasure as the Historical Society to welcome groups like this to from Green Bay and other places to come and learn about Greendale. So we're trying very hard as an association and as a society to share the Greendale story with people, and we appreciate the help that many of the businesses have given us in the past. So thanks to all those folks.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? I see none, so I will close it. Closed session, the board shall convene in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute, Section 19.851E, to deliberate or negotiate the purchasing of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, specifically discuss fire union contract negotiations. The board will not return to open session to act on matters discussed.
I move to go in closed session.
I'll second it. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian? Aye. Trustee Stow?
Left.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet? President Zabrowski?
Aye.
Are you resident or non-resident? Too soon.